All right.
All right. Um,
Consent. There we go.
we're back. Jawn Street Films, episode 9. Kind of a bigger episode today. We
Wow.
have a guest for the first time in this brand's history. We have Dr. Professor Filmmaker Ian Klink. How are you, buddy?
Well, thank you for the invite, guys. Thank you. Looking forward to this eventful evening.
For
Oh,
coming on.
yeah. So, we talked a little bit last year about you've made your own films, right? You and your college buddy.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, right? How you got into it, how you got started, and the whole kind of like the process of getting it to release to DVD and how much of a stress hazard that was.
Oh gosh, man. All right, let's see here. Let's bore the audience here. No, I mean, I'll starting off, I just, I'm a preacher's son from Iowa, and if you know anything about Iowa or the Midwest, there's film is not a thing of Iowa. At least, there's not a at least then as I was growing up, there's not this Hollywood industry, normal street like Chicago has a film industry, Philadelphia has an industry, New York, big metropolitan areas, but Des Moines, as big as it is, doesn't really have a huge film, development. I mean, there was a few. I know my dad was going to be cast in a Sylvester Stallone movie called Fist. You guys ever heard of this or seen it?
Never
It
heard of
sounds
Fist.
See, you guys are so young. This is what's gonna drive me nuts. You guys are like 4 years old, and I'm like 50. Um, but Fist was basically the story of Jimmy Hoffa, but they couldn't get the rights to Jimmy Hoffa, so Sylvester Stallone is a Hoffa-like guy. But they filmed it in Dubuque, Iowa, because basically Dubuque had cable. So a lot of people had taken off their TV antennas on their houses, because the movie's set in the 50s. So you wouldn't have, in the early, that's basically why they chose Iowa. Um, rare films like that, like Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner would come to Iowa and stuff like that. But I just honestly, I remember, I was about, 3 years old or something like that. My parents showed me Ghostbusters, and I just became obsessed with it. Watched it over and over and over and over again. To the point my parents actually, this is true, they had to actually rent a VCR from the library, and I just found this out like a year ago. My mom told me this. They rented a VCR from the library and they used to do that, but the librarians cut them off because they rented it so much for me to watch Ghostbusters that they said there's too many people want to rent it. So, eventually my parents got a VCR and I just watched it. So since I was 3, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I just wanted to make movies and but didn't really get a chance to do a lot of that until I got into college, and that's where I really started taking it very seriously and making my own short movies and when we were the one you're talking about, when we were 20, gosh, I think I was 21. A bunch of us got together and we wanted to do something like Creep Show. You guys seen George Romero's Creep Show? But we loved those movies. We loved Anthology. Creep Show 2 is, I have a poster in my classroom. It's still one of my favorite bad movies that are out there. And I did. I just we wanted to do an anthology like that. So 3 of us got together. I directed one of the shorts, and friends of mine directed the other 2. Um, but it sat on the shelf for 11 years. Just didn't go anywhere. I sent it out to companies. We wanted to do stuff with it and just never heard anything back. So, we moved on. We all, got older and about, I think it was February of this year, I got a random email from a guy at oldies.com, which is a company kind of near the Philly area. And a great guy there just kind of said, "Hey, I know this got passed on a while ago, but I was rewatching a lot of the DVDs we got in our office, and I want to put this out on DVD." And their focus is like early 2000s shot on video, shot on mini DV kind of movies. There's a crowd for this, that's out there. I'm not a fan of it, but it's what we could afford at the time. We couldn't make film. We couldn't, that was too expensive. We made this movie for, gosh, I mean, under $1,000. We made this movie. If you don't count gas and food and all that stuff, we hardly spent anything. And yeah, so it's got out there. I can't lie to you. I got my first royalty check for it a couple weeks back. It's been selling online, and people seem to enjoy it. So
Nice.
Something just clicked in my head. 'Cause at first, I thought when you were talking about, you said fist. I thought you said Fisk at first, and
that would be a
just
very
like,
different movie.
Yeah, I know. But something clicked when you said Sylvester Stallone, and then I was like, wait, he said fist, and I was like, that's a Norman Jewison movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know he did In the Heat of the Night.
Yes, great
Which is one
director.
of my favorites.
Great
so
director.
Yeah, that just clicked for me. Something just clicked.
Yeah.
It was
the post Rocky movie. After Rocky, this was like supposed to be the big.
That was like a bridge after Rocky, between Rocky 1 and Rocky 2.
Yeah, and I know my dad. My favorite story is my dad. His whole life he's had a mustache. Never seen him without it. Never, not once, never ever. He's had a beard, he's had goatee, but he's always had a mustache. And they wanted him to shave it for the movie. My mom said no, and that was the reason he's not in it. And I'm just like, right, like that. I've yelled at my mom for years for that.
I feel like we got kind of a metamorphosis of mustaches here. I'm trying to connect this down to here. Dom's has his connected, and then you have a full beard.
The full on beard. I know. My wife won't. Yeah. My wife's the same way though. She won't let me cut it. She'll divorce me if I shave my beard. So.
Yeah, I don't know why you would cut that thing. It's glorious.
I try, but it's getting grayer. You guys will be there. Don't worry.
So sometimes you just got to lean in.
More distinguished.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't want to be the Santa Claus. I don't want the kids come up to me and like pulling my leg and saying Santa Claus in the mall. I don't want that. Mall. Does anybody go to the mall anymore? That was the stupidest reference I could ever give you.
Yeah, I go to the mall for the FYE stores and sell Blu-rays.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
My friends and I go there all the time. We pick up Blu-rays.
I will tell you that FYE does have a great if you don't go on Amazon, FYE does have a good selection. Like I like horror movies. I like a lot of older horror movies, and Arrow Video has some really cool DVDs out there. I don't know if any of you ever gotten Arrow, but I got the 3-disc version of a movie called Basket Case from the early 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Basket Case.
Oh my gosh, fantastic movie! But I also love it too. As a film professor, I love hearing the stories of how movies are made, and the making of Basket Case is an incredible story. That was basically almost done the same way like I just explained the Chili Willies movie that we have out there on oldies.com. Chili Willies, please buy. He just kind of made it on his own. He put some money together, borrowed some money from an uncle, and made this movie about a twin who has his mutated brother in a basket that kills people. It's beautiful. But the making of just hearing the story of how they make this, and he brought a bunch of high schoolers together, were on the crew, college kids in film schools in New York City. Like, he just brought a bunch of people together, and they made this Basket Case movie that all of a sudden played at drive-ins and played on 42nd Street when 42nd Street was really 42nd Street, not beautiful, gorgeous neon lighted today. I'm talking the dirty, gritty,
like $35,000 or something.
Yeah, it was fantastic that he did that. But Arrow does some great stuff, but I love FYE for that. It's a great store.
Oh yeah, I just started getting into their section of what they do. So what they do is they go get as many Blu-rays as possible, and then do a bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's called
Zach,
the movie bracket, yeah.
explain
Really?
Or movie, yeah, or movie madness. This started
Oh,
right when
fascinating.
COVID hit. Yeah, it was right when COVID hit, and then obviously March Madness got canceled, and we started doing our own thing. We called it Movie Madness. So we got a bunch of Blu-rays, and we would set up our own brackets and face movies off against each other, and then you would get down to two, and you would vote on each movie, and then whichever movie won, we'd watch that movie.
Well, I have to know which one. What is one?
The first one that ever won.
Yeah.
I think it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Fantastic. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, and then the
it's now
second
getting it's now getting into the memes.
yeah, yeah,
because
it beat out Crawl from 2019, that alligator movie, the Sam Raimi produced one.
I can't lie to you. You said crawl. I thought you said crawl, and I was thinking of the
Yeah.
Liam Neeson sci-fi movie from the 80s. That's
Yeah, good. All right, we're even now. I thought you said Fisk. It was Fist.
I thought you said
Now
crawl.
we're even. So we're
We're
good
even.
now. Good.
but yeah, the what? So we did one. Oh God, what, Zach? Like about a month or so ago, and it
Yeah,
came down
over
to
Christmas break.
it came down to Annihilation
Yeah.
was one of the brackets, and Annihilation and Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat.
That's just beautiful. That is just beautiful. I know people think that that's a terrible movie and people don't, but my
Oh.
daughter, she'll watch that.
Oh, our buddy Dean, it's his favorite movie. Every year
That's
for his
beautiful.
birthday, we get him a new copy.
Really?
He has like 15 copies of the Cat in the Hat on Blu-ray.
See,
Yeah.
that is why if a movie bombs, I don't care. Somebody out there, that will be their favorite movie. You ever heard that? I mean, like, you ever really think about that? You as a director, you make these movies, and yeah, it might bomb, and nobody really saw it, but one person out there watches that movie
Mhm.
on a weekly basis, buys all the posters, collects all the toys, if you have toys, that is just a beautiful thing to think of.
Oh, it's
That
great.
Yeah,
your movie has changed somebody's perspective, has touched somebody some way that they'll do that. And I just, I used to go to autograph conventions a lot, because it was just, again, you're Midwest. This is a chance for you to get to see people out in the industry. You don't get to see a whole lot. And I remember, there's a favorite movie of mine. One of the actors was going to be there, and he's one of, he was Stephen Jeffries from. Most people know him as Evil Ed from Fright Night. The '80s Fright Night movie. And he signs tons of those, but he was in this really funny comedy from 1984 called Heaven Help Us. And it's a movie that my parents had recorded, and I watched it a lot. And I brought up just an 8x11 of the movie poster for him to sign, and he was so shocked that somebody brought up Heaven Help Us. He was so impressed. Like, almost like I changed his whole day by him getting to talk about this movie instead of the Fright Night story the 100th time that day. And it was just so great. It was so great and he talked to me, usually autograph thing. Have you guys ever been to autograph?
Not movie wise, but like sports wise and
Yes.
stuff. It's the
Okay,
same.
yeah.
It's the same.
Same
Hey,
thing,
how you doing?
right?
Here you go. Enjoy. Take a picture. Okay, move on.
Right, and that's the thing. And you want to just talk, like, you want to just have some time to talk to some of these people and get some stories, but you have that like 3-minute window, so you don't tick off the people behind you. And Stephen Jeffers just talked to me, just talked and kept talking and giving me insight and stories, and to the point, like, I don't think he wanted to end it. Like,
You wanted to end it?
Like, I wanted to end it because I knew people were behind me. Like, I didn't want to ruin it. So I was like, okay, I gotta go. Like, he's like, oh, okay, well, hey, again, thanks so much for bringing that, and it was just, again, that movie for me was like, I love watching that movie. I'll watch it anytime it's on. I'll watch it before I go into production. It's a feel good movie, but there's not, there's not a fan convention for Heaven Help Us. There's not an online website dedicated towards, Heaven Help Us, or if there is, I've never sseen it. But
Well, you know what you have to do now, right?
now I got to look. Now I got to Google
You
it.
have to create one.
No, I I don't. I love the movie, but that takes a lot of time. Not that big of it. No, I'm just joking. I actually probably would. But you make a movie and people accept it, and that's what I love about that. So it's like, yeah, it's Cat in the Hat. Yeah, it's Mike Myers. Yeah, it was weird because it's kind of adulty, and I'm glad kids don't catch some of that.
I like it now than I did then.
Yeah, it has some really crude jokes where you're just like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
my daughter doesn't care because it's just Cat in the Hat.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't make me a terrible parent.
No.
But she's laughing. He farts in it. She laughs.
That makes me laugh too.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me laugh. I'm laughing because she's laughing at the fart. Like it just makes my day. But somebody likes Cat in the Hat. It's one of their favorite movies. I hope he has the poster framed and by actual Staples framed. He took it to get mounted on the wall. I would love that.
Does he?
Yeah. He has 2 copies of Cat in the Hat. One he tried to buy the Blu-ray for, but it was a DVD with a blue case. And then he bought the Blu-ray, so he has the DVD mounted up on the speaker shelf. So that's up there.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And we have a weird shelf. There's the picture. There's a candle of the Pope up there. A headless bobblehead of Shane Victorino. It's weird.
That's different. I like
your WWE belt.
Yeah, the WWE Championship belt's up there. We don't really have a theme in this house. It's just a bunch of random shit. Just
are you guys
all over the place?
Are you guys fan of wrestling?
WWE?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be. Back in the Hardy Brothers and Randy Orton and Edge, Batista, 2008 to 2010. I still watch it when it's on sometimes. We'll have a Monday Night Raw night. But I guess now it's the Roman Reigns era or something.
See, I got Raw in the 90s. So I was during the Bret Hart years. I had the Undertaker.
You got the blood on the screen.
I had the NWO and Hulk went bad. Those are some cool days.
Oh,
and we had the great action figures. Nothing beat those action figures.
Yeah, I had a bunch of them, and then my mom gave those all to Goodwill.
Doesn't that kill you? I have no shame in admitting this. I have all my action figures still. It's in a box in my parents' attic, and I refuse to let them. And somehow, when I have the space, I'll bring them here. But they are not allowed to get rid of those.
Oh yeah, I do that. I do that with as dorky it is. I do the Marvel figures, and I have a shelf for it. And I started doing that because my dad had the vintage set of the original Star Wars figures in the Millennium Falcon case.
Oh,
and they moved, and his parents, my grandparents, gave them to the little kid down the street.
You
got to go find that kid.
I have to go beat that kid up and get those toys back because they're worth so much money.
I read a story a couple weeks back. I was reading about the history of Mad Magazine, and I love one of my other shows that got me into filmmaking was HBO's Tales from the Crypt. One of the greatest short movies ever made was that show. But Bill Gaines, who created it, he was doing an interview, and his dad, Max Gaines, was one of the original people that created what eventually became DC. So he created he didn't draw it, but he was there. He created the Action Comics, which Action Comics #1, of course, is Superman. Well, Max Gaines used to keep 13 of everything he ever made. He'd have 13 copies of everything that any comic book, any books, any of that, 13. And in early 40s or something like that, his dad was cleaning out the basement. And Bill Gaines remembers this. His dad took the 13 copies of Action Comics #1, which I think sells now for almost $1 million each, even in bad condition.
Holy shit.
and he just tossed it in the garbage. Now, at the time, it wasn't a big deal, but he remembers. He's doing this interview in the 80s or early 90s where he's remembering watching his dad throw away $13 million into the trash can.
God, that would
It makes you never want to throw away anything.
Oh, that would wake me up at night to this day.
Right? I read that, and he did. He's just like, I remember it, but back then, what was the point? It was a stupid comic book. You know, this is before the TV show. This is before any of that stuff. It was just an old comic book. He just threw it away. You know,
it's
a crime.
That's hard. That's
right.
Hard. That hurts. Just hearing that. That hurts. I feel for him.
Right. I was reading the interview. I was literally back here in my office, like reading, like, oh, I just said that out loud, like, oh.
Yeah, I don't. My wife hates that I collect so much dumb shit because she's like, she'll come up into like the office and be like, she'll be like, why do you have all these stupid toys? And I'll like find new ones like on the shelves or somewhere, and I'll get one on Amazon. She'll be like, you have all this money for toys, but you can't like help do something else. And I'm just like, you don't understand.
You know, like, dumb toys.
Find that article and read it out loud to her, and then close the book, nod your head, and just walk out the room.
These dumb toys.
Don't take my advice. Don't take my advice. Be kind to your wife. Don't
hoard. Take her advice.
That's what I'm gonna do.
All your shit.
I'm just gonna start hoarding. So to your Chili Willies movie, did you write the script for that?
Yeah,
like a collaboration type of thing.
Yeah. Well, it was collaboration. So I wrote the wraparound story. I wrote the my story, which is called Bad Medicine, and I wrote Lucky, which was the middle story. The third one, my good friend Justin Markson, who, if any of you have seen the movie Haunt, that's on, like, I think it's on Hulu now, but the haunted house movie, he plays the clown in that movie. Great performance. But Justin wrote the third story, and he also directed it. So I directed my segment. A good friend of ours, Joe McKinney, he directed the second one that I wrote called Lucky, and then Justin directed his, which is called The Voodoo You Do.
The Voodoo You Do.
And then I directed the wraparound story. So you know, the three of us were the main directors for it.
So what kind of like what would be your like biggest challenge you had on set, like on production set while you were directing it?
Being 21, no.
Just being young.
Just being young. Well, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, like I said, we made this movie for, you know, we made it for nothing. You know, and you do what you do when you're young starting out filming. You do what you have, right? So we had a farm. I had, you know, my aunt's house was on this farm, and she had a barn. So I wrote the story. You know, I was in college at the time, so I wrote in kind of a lab part of the story. So we filmed it at the college, and then we went to Iowa to film the stuff in the barn. And honestly, it was just the technology. I mean, you know, it, like I said, it's shot on mini DV, so it has that look. You know, you know, and I think anybody who's ever shot a movie on mini DV will get the same thing from audiences. You know, well, it doesn't look like film. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like film because we can't afford, you know, $1,000 per reel for, you know, for film stock. So, you know, that was a challenge. You know, filming at different times and you know, scheduling and you know, one of the ideas we did with it was we had the same actors pretty much throughout the whole entire story. So we all played kind of the same parts. Like I acted in it, Justin acted in it. But the reason we chose to do that, one, was for convenience. I mean, we're all the same people. We're all going to be there. Like, why not just do it? But also, we were kind of trying to be creative in the fact that comic books, all the characters are usually drawn kind of look the same. You know, so a certain artist has a certain style. So, you know, they all kind of look similar. You know, so, you know, one person would put on a mustache, but he'd still be me, or I didn't have a beard then, but I would look a different for each role, kind of thing. But we were trying to be kind of creative that way. So
This is where you have to tell your dad that I changed my appearance.
right, yeah, like I didn't have a beard then, Dad. Like I'm telling, like he could have been in a Sylvester Stallone movie, but my mom stopped him just so she could kiss and get a little tickle from his mustache. I mean, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I love my mother to death, but dumbest move, just
Let him be a method
insane.
actor.
Right. So I mean, challenges that when you're doing low budget filmmaking, I mean, just to be honest, paying for lunch.
Yeah.
I had I had a student union job at the time. I had, a couple of bucks, but mom and dad weren't, giving me all the money to do the movie or anything like that. So, hey guys, like I brought bread and meat and cheese slices. Like, hey, this is lunch.
Yeah.
Like, but we're at my aunt's house, so there's water. That like, there's she had a couple of cans of soda, so we stole them. Sorry, Aunt Kathy. But that's really what the challenges are. But what's great is we did it. We put this together, and I always say to this day, like anybody who looks at this movie, I mean, we're going on now almost 20 years ago that we made this movie. We were young and trying. We were these young kids thinking, hey, maybe this will get us somewhere. Hey, maybe somebody will watch this and give us money to make a movie. And not to end on a downer note, but obviously we had no clue how it really works. We got it into a few film festivals and again sent it out to places. And it kind of was sad. It was like, okay, well, you put in all that energy, put all the work in it, just sits on a shelf. And that's what I used to think.
Mm-hmm.
Till, a couple months ago. All of a sudden, I'm getting a royalty check for this movie that's been, collecting no dividends for 20 years. And it's like, wow, like time is a beautiful thing. Time, I tell people this all the time. Time is just a beautiful thing that if you embrace it, you'll be amazed at what life does for you. Yeah, you get into work at 8 o'clock, but think about it. It's not that long, right? I'm a teacher. You get in at 8, you get in at 7 o'clock. Okay, well, 2 o'clock isn't that long, and then you're free to do whatever you want for the rest of the day. Like time's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 20 years later, all of a sudden I get an email. Hey, want to do something with Chili Willies? Well, to be honest, the last time anybody really saw it was, which this was cool. We actually did premiere it at the IMAX. There was this IMAX that opened up in Davenport, Iowa, and for I don't know, I think it was like $200 then or something like that. We rented the place and we showed it on the IMAX screen. Now imagine that showing
like
a mini
surreal feeling, right?
It was, yeah, it was my thinking about it now, like it's really kind of beautiful. But like my grandmother came to see it. My grandmother, she was 85 years old or something in a walker. She came to the IMAX to watch this movie on the big screen. It was great. And I remember people laughing. I remember people, being nervous about it. And I remember at the end of the day, we split up the whatever we charged. We split it up, and I remember us going to McDonald's. I remember that we all went to McDonald's, to celebrate the movie, and it was great. It was great. But yeah, so
I expect nothing more than just like a bunch of just 21-year-old around celebrating their first movie on the big screen.
And this is when they had the dollar menu. Like we could actually afford McDonald's. Like it was awesome. We all got cheeseburgers and didn't want to spend too much. But yeah, I mean, other challenges that I can remember is just scheduling. You get when you're not paying people, when you're not doing that, all of a sudden you're going to film that day, and Tommy calls you saying like, yeah, I got called into work, I can't make it, you know, and then to find out Tommy didn't go into work, he just didn't want to come on the movie that day, like things like that, I remember one time what was interesting is a movie that came to Iowa at that time was a movie called The Final Season, and it was about this famous team from Iowa, this high school baseball team who the school is closing down. So this is like the big season, and they won state championship. So what was great about it is, one, it was directed by David Mickey Evans, who did The Sandlot. So big time director. I think Tom Arnold's actually from Iowa, so Tom Arnold was in the movie. A couple other, Rachel E. Cook from like She's All That. It's a movie way past your guys' time, but for us fogies, we remember She's All That. Did y'all ever see She's All That?
I
Don't know
have
that movie?
I
Okay,
feel like
It's been
Zach's
a
one of the
while.
ones who has.
this is
It's been a while.
it's great. It's literally the My Fair
Yeah.
Lady story, the Pygmalion story. This guy makes a bet to make the ugliest girl in high school. Like he's gonna take her and she'll be prom queen if he fixes her.
Yeah. I'm a big Freddie
Horrible.
Prinze Jr. fan.
Yeah, horrible movie. Has not aged well at all in its approach. But what we always remember it is Rachel E. Cook was absolutely gorgeous. What does she do? She takes off her glasses. Oh my gosh, what? She's the prom queen, of course. She took off her glasses. It made us all laugh. But she was in the movie, and Sean Astin was the star. And this is right around when Lord of the Rings had just come out. So Sean Astin was kind of back on the stratosphere of big names. And Justin, who was directing one of the segments, it was acting in it. Justin actually got the job of being Sean Astin's stand-in. Because they're similar heights, had similar looks at the time. And so all of a sudden we were already do this movie, and we had to really like switch everything around because Justin was now going to be paid. He was going to be on this movie and stuff like that. We still wanted to do it. We were going to be able to do it, but we had to like push it back a month. And that because of that, we lost a few. I think we lost a couple of actors who couldn't do it. I think one of them was a friend of mine who was going into the Marines. He was going to act in, or he was going to act in it. Or no, it was another friend of mine who went into the Army. He had to be charged, and we had to have Justin in the scene with him, so he couldn't do it. Just little things like that. But we got through it, and we ended up making it, and we great movie. If you ever get a chance to see Final Season, it's a really good sports movie. Story I always remember, and this is just fun. David Mickey Evans, apparently he just curses like a sailor. I mean, just swears all over the place. And it makes me laugh thinking of him directing The Sandlot and him just saying, all these swear words to all these kids around. And apparently he did, which is great, so, but again, it's a really good sports movie. And I always tell students, if you want your movie to sell, if you want to make a number one movie, make it a sports movie. Sports movies always have an audience. They always will Christmas movies, sports movies, and pets. You do those three, and somebody will read your script. I may not buy it.
So it's a good thing you say that.
Yeah.
Now, so Zach
We're
and
making Life of Pets 3 or something.
we are. No.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
Hey. They
Now-
made a second one. Think about that.
Yeah, let's get Kevin Hart on the phone.
what about pirate movies?
There has been 3 of them that I can remember.
Well, here's what's funny. I mean, if and again, sorry to get all film professor nerd, but I love history of film. So, the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean actually sold, the fact that it actually was even greenlit is shocking, because you go back a few years and there was a movie by Rennie Harlan called Cutthroat Island, which at the time was one of the biggest bombs in cinema history. This is like 95 or 96 or something like that. But I mean, it cost, millions. It was over, I think it was over 100 million to make the movie. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong about it, but I know it cost, it was really high up there. Not Titanic, but like it was like numbers, but it was pretty up there.
James Cameron.
And but it bombed. I mean, it made only like $2 or $3 million at the box office. So first thing anybody ever said, no pirates. Nope. And if you really look at the history, there was no pirate movies until all of a sudden Johnny Depp, who even at that time, Johnny Depp wasn't as big Johnny Depp, because really Pirates of the Caribbean, he wasn't here, he was here, but that movie put him, up way up there. Just the fact that they greenlit that movie was actually shocking, but now people trust pirate movies, because of all the money those make.
Well, that's what I love to hear, because Zack and I are writing a pirate epic.
Interesting.
We are writing an epic that will probably bankrupt the country.
That would be the bad move, but
What?
You're literally saying right now,
it could
producers,
be a great movie.
Read this script, but we're going to bankrupt everybody, every single one of you.
Yep, absolutely.
That's just to get the stars before we even start shooting.
Yes, that's just to pay the actor. We came up with a plan. So we had a whole idea. It was one night, we were drinking, we were playing video games, and we're just like, let's just fucking write a movie. So we just threw out these ideas of a script, and it was, let me pull it up. It was one of the most exciting moments in my life that I could remember, because we were like so excited to write this ideas down. So it's so let me read you the plot.
I love
Brilliant.
Zack's face right
really
now.
brilliant.
Zack's face is really like, if I was a studio head looking at Zack's face right now, I would just be like, Dom, it's been great talking to you all.
I need to shave a couple $100 million off this budget. Just a couple.
So our plot is, it's a family-owned general goods store, right? Rums, spices, etc., stuff like that. And they're a transport trying to make ends meet, running goods from England to the British colonies in New America. And they get trapped in a waging war between the Caribbean infidel pirates and the British Navy.
Fascinating.
So after taking substantial damage in battle, one of the British warships must retreat, and they come across this transport vessel. So they demand their injured to be taken back to the homeland through these war-torn, pirate-infested waters.
All right. My first thing, though, and I would tell you, get the Netflix blurb of all of that into about 2 sentences.
Yes.
But you, well, look, I will never discourage anything, because here's what I'll tell you. This I used to be that way. I used to, say like, oh, that'll never do, blah 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 blah. You know what the best podcast I ever listened to in my life?
Besides this one?
Well, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for correcting me. But it was Kevin Smith's podcast where he legendarily, like, he created the movie of Tusk with Justin Long. Please tell me you all have seen Tusk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I will not say Tusk is a great movie. It's not. What is amazing, though, is the making of that movie and the passion that Kevin Smith needed to get that movie made. And the fact that this was just done on a podcast where they were just going off this ridiculous ad that they found about, and this is true. It literally was an ad to come into my house. You can stay rent-free if you dress up like a walrus. Like, this is a real thing. This is a real ad.
Sounds like the movie
that they saw on Craigslist. Yeah, and that's what did it. He's like, Kevin Smith just got so fascinated with this moment that he just went for it on the podcast, and he was so excited that he couldn't get out of his head. He said, I have to make this movie now. I can't not do it. And to be honest, that's a number one sign. I think it was I think I heard on Mick Garris's podcast, somebody was talking about this. And it might even been Mick Garris who said it. Who directed The Stand and a lot of Stephen King adaptations. Great director that I admire. He said, if a movie is in your head a year down the road, if that idea is like there, if it is stuck with you, then there's something to that idea. There's something to that idea not going away that might not be what you want it to be. It might not be might not sell, it might not make it, but obviously it's sticking with you. So there's something there. There's some passion. There's some, as a writer, I get tons of ideas every day. I'll get 50 million ideas, but the ones that I end up writing, the ones that really come through, are the ones where I just keep going back to that idea, and I keep thinking, oh, that's a really fascinating idea, or that's a really fascinating line that makes me really want to write that story, or get, and those are the ones that get out there. Those are the ones I've had published. Those are the ones that I've had people read, and so do not discourage your pirate movie. Do not do that.
I'm not.
Now I want to hear more about. I want to hear more
there.
of who you're casting in this, because
oh shit. See, this is where who aren't we casting?
We got to figure out what Adam Driver, Tom Hardy, and fucking everybody are doing.
We created this,
but
we basically took everyone in Hollywood and do it. This is why we're bankrupting the world, basically.
Okay.
Margot Robbie, if she has time.
Mm-hmm. But it turns out we're not actually bankrupting the world. We kind of, on one of our earlier episodes, we were like, look, if we can just get $2, two measly $1 bills from every living person, we're good.
I mean, it's worked to get us out of the deficit and to get us out of recession. So, oh, wait, no.
No, not quite.
But we looked at it as, look, like this could be the worst, the most catastrophic failure ever, and could really set us back 10 lifetimes, or it could be great. It's a big if, but sometimes as a gambling man, you just got to roll the dice and see what happens.
Well, as they say, as long as you're rolling with somebody else's money, why not?
You just get out of Dodge afterwards.
Exactly.
But I feel like what you were saying about an idea popping into your head and then just running with it really goes hand. You see a lot of those examples in the horror genre specifically. Like I think of a movie like Brain Dead with Peter Jackson before he was Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson. It's like, what if we have a room full of zombies and we just go in with a lawnmower, spray blood?
I love that you called it Brain Dead. I love that you stuck with the New
titles to it.
I love that. Everybody should call it Brain Dead. Dead Alive is just not the same. But wonderful VHS cover. I always saw that with the girl opening her mouth and the skeleton in there. I always remembered that, when I was a kid. So great poster. But Brain Dead. Oh, what a great movie.
Yeah.
I do really truthfully. The King Kong Peter Jackson is great. He's the Lord of the Rings is great, but man, have you watched Meet the Feebles?
Meet the Feebles? Is that Peter Jackson too?
That is a Peter Jackson. Meet the Feebles. It's literally, and I'm not making this up. It's if the Muppets snorted cocaine, were into guns.
Looking at the poster right now.
STDs run rampant amongst them. And it's all with puppets. Like this is like what was it, Murderland that came out a few years back, or what was it called? They had
look at that. Have you read the tagline for Meet the Feebles?
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and soft toys.
Yeah, that's literally
the cover is a hippo in a wig in a wedding dress holding a machine gun.
Meet the Feebles, right there. And
Yeah,
it's
it looks
literally,
like it's like Mrs. Piggy if she was a hippo.
that's what he did. He said, why, why do we do these Disney like Muppets? He's like, and his whole thing was, you they're Muppets. We can do whatever we want with them. We could do whatever we want with these puppets. We could blow them away. We could blow them up, burn them, do disgusting stuff to them. And
It's a
it's
puppet.
just as long as the puppeteer's okay with it.
So it's like
Um,
a horror version of Team America.
yeah, I mean, really, honestly, it's that or but even Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson did that a couple years ago with that movie with um oh, she's in Bridesmaids, Melissa McCarthy. They did Puppet Land Murders, or something like that. But even that was tamer than Meet the Feebles. Or one of my favorite he did is Bad Taste, which was his first movie. And Bad Taste is about alien Ghostbusters, basically. And it's Peter Jackson stars in it. He made it for like $500,000 or something like that. But even then, it's aliens are drinking this goop from their brains. People's heads are getting chopped off. Peter Jackson's hand gets chopped off. I mean, like it's a wild movie. His earlier stuff is wild. And I'll be honest, I love that. I love directors' early efforts. I really, in my DVD library, I built up a lot of collection of that. I have Bad Taste. Spielberg's Duel. You know, Reanimator by Stuart
Mhm.
Gordon. You know, Dark Star by John Carpenter. All of the earlier stuff. Before the Dementia 13, Francis Ford Coppola. Like, it's fascinating to watch all these directors where they first landed, and to where they're going. I mean, Dementia 13, which was made because Roger Corman was in Ireland, and Francis Ford Coppola had this idea, hey, leave your crew, leave me the camera stuff, and give me $20,000. I'll make you a movie in a week. It's literally how it happened. And he was doing sound on this movie. And Roger Corman said, sure, go direct your first movie. Francis Ford Coppola then, who made it for $20,000, now is out there making Megalopolis, his epic, personally financed 200 or $250 million picture right now, with Adam Driver, with all these things. I mean, it's just bookends that is so fascinating. But that guy started off just doing this little psycho ripoff black and white movie in Ireland.
I love
Yeah.
Made all the Godfather movies, made all these movies years later. But those first movies are fascinating.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the fact that so many of his productions are so troubled, like Apocalypse Now, and a
Oh,
lot of the drama that went on The Godfather and Godfather 2 sets, and this, like a bunch of people just left the Megalopolis production, and I saw that in a news article, and I was like, all right, so this is going to be another instant classic then.
yeah. Well, that's he does. They always have a unique story. Have you all seen Heart of Darkness?
Yeah, it's
The
been a while.
documentary, yeah, the documentary making
Yeah.
of Apocalypse Now.
Uh-huh.
Dom, have you seen
That's
that?
like I was
No,
like 50 pounds on set.
Oh,
no. This is something I'm interested now.
if you can find it, I mean, you can probably get it used on Amazon. But
Oh
there was
yeah, it's like
the dossier version of
Vietnam.
there's a version out there where you can get Apocalypse Now, and you can get the Heart of Darkness documentary. But it was his wife just filmed the making of, and just filming all of the chaos that was this production. I mean, it's a lot of filmmakers will say, like, they'll watch that documentary after they've gone through hell to be on their film of the set of their movie, and they realize, okay, well, it wasn't that bad. It gets them perspective of, like, well, at least it wasn't Apocalypse Now.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
at least it wasn't. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know necessarily. I don't know if I believe in that whole theory of if it's chaos, if your movie's chaos, it's going to be a good movie, or and if your movie's
I think that's just
perfect,
a Francis Ford Coppola thing.
right? Like I mean, I've been plenty of movies have gone just smooth and have gone on to win Oscars, the money makers. I mean,
I'm sure the best picture Oscar helped.
You guys excited for the
helping.
Oscars? It's tomorrow. What's your guys'?
Yeah,
What's your guys'
not
stance?
excited about Avatar. I hope that wins nothing.
Oh yeah,
But
we've
I'm
come
very
to the decision that
I'm very. I have some.
You mean
I
Dances
have
with
some
Wolves
trigger
too?
there.
Yeah.
Cinematography, Top Gun Maverick wasn't even nominated. So I mean, how serious can I really be about it at this point?
it's
There are
funny that
some
he
things
brings
that
up.
happened about
It's
something
funny
I
he
was very pissed about.
Well, do
It's
you guys think it's relevant?
It's somewhat relevant if you follow
Because
movies,
y'all are
but
young film students. Like, to me, in my film school days, Oscars were. I mean, you had to watch the Oscars. That was the epitome of good filmmaking. But do you all feel it's relevant anymore? I'm curious on that. Sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No,
I
it's
know you're
fine.
answering that.
I think it's somewhat relevant. I definitely think it's taken a dip over like the last decade, but I mean, for casual people, I think they definitely like if they're flicking through channels, they're like, "Oh, the Oscars on. You want to watch this?" No, something else is on. Okay, like I'll tune in for um, like certain sections of it. Like I'm excited for the best animated picture. Um, Best actress is one that I'm excited for. Although I think but um, I don't know. I think it's relevant if you're a movie person, then it's relevant. But if you're just a casual person, I don't think you're gonna go out of your way to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, they used to, and I find that fascinating too. They used to be, it used to get audiences to go to. I mean, it used to be a money thing, to be honest. I mean, you win Best Picture, audiences now will want to go see it, like or at least rent it on video. Like, I mean, that was the thing. I've had this feeling that I think that the acting is relevant. I think people care about the acting. I don't know if they
Yeah,
necessarily care about the picture anymore. Like and I'll be honest. I mean, like you got Gladiator in the background. Like to me,
that's my
Gladiator,
favorite.
yeah, Gladiator. That deserved Best Picture. I mean, that was a great, well-made film. It's epic. I mean, and I done that.
Yeah,
I've
it's
collected. Yeah, I collected all the Best Picture winners up until like Green Book. I stopped. I stopped. Like I don't have a copy of Coda. I don't have a copy of Nomadland. I don't have because I'm sitting there like, well, if I'm going to watch something, I want to watch Lawrence of Arabia. I want to watch, I want to watch Platoon. I want to watch Kramer versus Kramer. Like those movies had this kind of actually impacted the world. And
yeah,
not saying like Coda has not impacted the world. I have friends, in community who are deaf, and that movie is like a calling card and a beautiful light for them. It really addresses some certain things. And so I appreciate the filmmakers who did it, but I don't see it lasting the way that I see, Ben-Hur lasting
mhm,
or I mean, it's almost canceled now, but Gone with the Wind,
yeah,
any of these kind of older movies. And so I don't know if people really care anymore what wins Best Picture. I know they care. Like, I know people want, Brendan Fraser or Austin Butler. I know they care which one of them wins.
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I
I feel
think
like
going
part
back
of
to
it.
the relevancy part, I feel like for movie people, it it can go either way, especially when Zach brought up like if you're a movie guy and you want to watch to see who wins best cinematography, right? And you know what you're looking for. But when you
yeah,
see movies like Top Gun who aren't even nominated, like Zach said, how can you really take it as seriously as they want you to.
Well,
Especially
yeah,
even if you're a
yeah.
film guy where you're like, okay, visually, this is probably the best movie filmed. Like it's the best looking movie, it's the best shot, everything practical type of film, but then it's not even nominated for its cinematography. So
Well, I was shocked when 1917 didn't. I mean, the mechanics of 1917 were so incredible. I mean, yes, they
Yeah.
rewarded Richard Deakins. I mean, we obviously deserved that Oscar, but man, when that wasn't, or Boyhood,
yeah,
I
the one that took
I
14 years to make.
I mean, I was shocked that that did not get the recognition, or to be honest,
It
the
was,
and maybe it's film people like me, film teachers like me who don't play it. We're doing that movie a disservice.
mm,
14 years in the making.
Yeah, from a kid into an adult. Like they
yeah.
just followed him for his life.
I mean, my God, like
Oh, and,
they always say like now, especially like for like the director, to win best, it should be because they did a personal thing. That's why people are like Steven Spielberg should get it because it's a personal journey. It's something that meant something to them, and
that
I
doesn't make
agree
it
to that.
necessarily good, though.
But that's yeah, and that's the
I didn't like the Fablemans all that much.
but like Ang Lee, right? Like Ang Lee, the bravery of doing Brokeback Mountain.
Hmm.
I know some people don't like the movie. I think it's a beautiful romantic film. I mean, it really, I I remember like going to see that movie and just being two audience experience I remember the most. Well, three. I'll count three, but the, the going to see Brokeback Mountain and just the silence of the audience to the point where at the very end there was just tears and that's all you heard was the audience crying was so impactful. The other one I remember is Freddy versus Jason. One of my favorite audience experiences of my entire life was seeing Freddy versus Jason. And I mean it when Jason or when Freddy says that line, the one friend, is yelling at him and he says the line dark meat. I mean, that crowd lost it. And I remember watching this going like, this is why you make movies.
Mhm.
This right here is why to get these kind of audience reactions. So, for Ang Lee, like absolutely, he should have 100% got that Oscar for that bravery of what it
Yeah.
is. But Zach, your favorite movie? Why didn't Ridley Scott get the Oscar? You know,
Well, yeah. Why didn't he win? I feel like it's like the best director Oscar is kind of a precursor to the best picture Oscar, which is why it shocked me that he didn't win best director that year.
Mhm.
And then kind of going off your 1917 thing, well, I'm not mad that Bong Joon-ho won because I think he was just as deserving as 1917.
Mhm.
Um, but going back about like why we don't get any more Gladiator Best Pictures is that it's so hard to finance like $100 million R-rated film
Oh yeah.
like these days. Like my favorite film of 2021 was another Ridley Scott film was The Last Duel. I think I was one of the only people who went to
Only
actually
people
see it.
probably in the theater.
Yeah, it was $100 million budget, made $30 million worldwide. I was like, am I the only one watching this? It turns out I was one of the only people who went to watch it. But
I will say though, I've only had a few rare experiences where I've gone to like a movie theater and I'm like by myself. And I think the
yeah.
last one I ever had was going to see uh seeing Texas Chainsaw like 3D or whatever, whichever one. I had one of those. Me and my friend Justin, who I talked about earlier, he and I were the only ones in the theater. We had a ball.
Mhm.
We had a ball.
Yeah.
We could make fun of it. We thought it was, we didn't think it was great, but it was just great to have an experience like that. But yeah, now I also I'm in the camp of thinking, I mean, to spend that kind of money nowadays,
Yeah. blows up in your face a lot.
I really, honestly, truthfully, and all because of what? Like what? Why spend the money on that movie? What did The Last Duel have to do? Did it change the world? Did it make that impact? Did it even get nominated for anything? Like, why spend that money? And I actually find it fascinating, of the movies that are coming out this year, you're about to see a real big change. Because what's happening is the theaters, the studios are starting to wake up. It's taken years, but they're realizing we can't keep spending, hundreds of millions of dollars for a movie to fail because people aren't going out to theaters to see it.
Yeah, so it's
So,
going on streaming sites.
well, they stream, but it's also they're spending less. So, friends of mine whose movies open up this weekend, 65.
Yeah.
That movie is only budgeted $45 million. Now that's an Adam Driver dinosaur science fiction movie, but it's there, and for a studio movie with that kind of premise and that kind of feel, you would have thought, oh well, this is absolutely going to cost $100 million more. But I truthfully think the studios, and I don't know this for sure, this is just my own Ian Klink mind's thinking. I think the studios are really trying to experiment with that concept. Can we do it for less? Because they see something like Blumhouse. Yeah, I mean, you see Blumhouse, and he makes, whether you like Halloween or not. And yes, I'm in the camp of I like Michael Myers in my Halloween Michael Myers movies. Say what you want about Halloween Ends, they didn't make it for that much, and that thing killed. I mean, no pun intended. I mean, which, I mean, to be honest, that was the concept way before Jaws. I mean, that's what made Roger Corman, Roger Corman's a career that I really study a lot. Like, I really love Roger Corman and the stuff that he did. But, Roger Corman was making movies for $20,000, and, in rentals, it would make $1 million. Equivalent today, that's, doing a $10 million movie and getting, $100 million out of it. I mean, he was doing that way back when. Then Jaws came about, and they realized, oh, we can do the same kind of crappy movies, same premise. Roger Corman even said Jaws is one of his movies, just with a bigger budget, and it killed at the box office. And I think that was, to be honest, that was like the formula from like Jaws all the way to, I think, about 5 years ago. The bigger budget, the more money it'll make, and all this stuff. Now I think that I'm hearing a lot. I mean, streaming services are cutting out they're slashing budgets. I mean, what was it? Paramount, I think, just slashed a bunch of, killed a bunch, or Netflix. It was Netflix just killed a bunch of shows.
Oh yeah. One of Zack's favorite shows.
Oh yeah, they canceled a couple. Very mad about that.
Well, you know the Netflix formula, right?
Yeah.
It's fascinating,
but it's there.
It has to have, their formula, and I can't wait to share this with my students. The formula for Netflix, for those of you out there that don't know, they base it off of the watches of episodes 2 and 3. One watching the first episode, usually people get through. They base off of, no matter if the show is popular enough, but if there's not a certain percentage, and I think it's like 60% or more of the first, like basically if 60% or more go from the first episode to the second episode, and like 40% go on to the third episode of the audience, they'll renew that show. So it could be popular. It could be like one of the best made shows and people love it. But if it doesn't get past that 60%, Netflix says nope.
Yeah. By
which is why they keep having The Office. They had The Office on for so long because so many people just kept watching The Office. That formula kept working for The Office. I mean, and it would increase. People would watch. They wouldn't watch the first season, but season 3, when The Office really kind of got its rhythm. You know, those
Yeah, I
episodes.
also feel like like The Office also didn't cost much to make.
Yeah, but
But
you know, Netflix now is
but I get
they're
it.
making these movies. I don't know how they're counting it. I really like. I don't like. Yeah, they'll say that it was the most. You know, that You People was like one of the most watched.
Yeah,
The one that sticks out to me
it's
about
the
that
thing.
was Six Underground.
Yeah, you know, it's like you know, who knows? You know, I mean, you know, which actually I think there's going to be a strike here pretty soon. I think it's the Directors Guild or the Producers Guild. They're striking over streaming
Yeah,
because the interesting part is you don't get residuals from Netflix.
Hmm.
You know, that's you know, you do an original show. It used to be, I mean, like way back when you did, you know, Cheers, and you'd get at least for like 10 years afterwards, you'd get residuals pretty high because they, you know, they'd play it on Fox or they do this. Netflix doesn't pay you residuals. They just say you get a one flat fee.
Hmm.
You know,
I don't.
so yeah, these actors, you know, will get $1 million. Dwayne Johnson will get $1 million for that Red Patrol, whatever that movie was.
Red
But
Notice.
yeah, Red Nose, yeah, but he doesn't get anything else from it. You know, the contracts that they sign for those Netflix deals are just one time. That's what you get. You know, I'm sure there's some probably subcontracts that, you know, if a movie sells to Netflix or does something, you know, they'll get something down the line, like those Bruce Willis movies or whatever, you know. But you know, that's changing the market. Basically, Netflix can't do that anymore. They're getting, you know, not many people are subscribing, so the viewerships are going down, and so, you know, all of a sudden they're cutting their production budgets. You know, and I think they're going to do that. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of episodes that aren't, you know, like I said, like with my friends, I think they're going to be what originally was $100 million. They only might fork over 45, or you know, this TV series is, you know, might cost 10 million to make it, but they're only going to give you 3.
Which sucks, you know? It because
But
I
does
feel
it?
They produce better content.
But does it? Because let's
you
be
can make
honest.
you can make the argument either way, you know?
Well, this is what I always say. You know, food tastes the best when you haven't eaten for like 2 days,
That's true.
right? I know how that sounds, but let's be honest. When you're in a bind, some of the most creative stuff that you come up with, you know, and especially as a filmmaker on the set of a movie, sometimes those are the best moments. You know, uh,
Yeah, I feel like that's where HBO has a step up on Netflix when it comes to them making you wait a week to watch the next episode of a show, where you
yeah.
can just watch it all in a couple hours on Netflix. Like you have to wait a week to watch the next episode of The Last of Us, and I'm like salivating for 6 days waiting for it to come out.
Don't you hate
And
that though? Netflix ruined me.
I hate it. Yeah, I hate it. Do I hate the Netflix like watching it all at once?
Yeah, that thing now. It's like I want to watch it all like right.
Yeah, you want to watch it all, but I mean, you're gonna get more watches if people are salivating over the next episode rather than just going on to the next. Like that's probably one of the shows that Netflix canceled that pissed me off was 1899, which
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
the number one show on Netflix for well over. It's probably close to like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same. It's from the same creators as Dark, which I also really loved.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But it's like this multilingual show, and it was like 2 months. It was the number one show on Netflix, and then I want to say it was like a month after it its first season had ended, they announced that they were canceling it. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the like what you were saying that the jump from episode 1 to episode 2 was, but
I think it's like
I think if that
60% or something like
yeah,
that.
60%. But I think if you make people wait that extra week, I think the excitement grows and you get a show like that back, or a show like Mindhunter, which I've been waiting to come back for 4 years, but just recently got officially canceled, which
I
absolutely
know
broke my.
it's weird. Like I got into, you know, for a lot of years I kind of avoided TV because I wanted just everything right then and there. And yeah, with the Mandalorian or Obi-Wan, on Disney Plus. I would watch it once a week. It's like, okay, all right, like, yes, I want to watch. I want to know right now. I want to know what that is. I'll be honest though, I watch a lot of that stuff more now because I can relate to the students and I can talk to them about what they're watching and stuff like that. I'd rather watch TCM, to be honest, but but I loved Obi-Wan. I mean, Obi-Wan I thought was great. I thought they actually had a really interesting
Take
concept, concept there. Although I did say this the other day, the younger generations, they don't have to get how good it is. We had 3 Star Wars movies. That was it. I mean, that was it until like 99. There was
That should have been it.
Unless you want what well, like now there's like a new Star Wars movie every 2 years. It's like, you guys don't even understand. Like we were teased for almost 20 years that this is 4, 5, and 6. Well, where the hell's 1, 2, and 3? What
And I think that's funny with bringing up Star Wars is like, because of how poorly received the movies are, the more creative and the time being spent to really fleshing out stories, I feel like more of the series and the shows are better than the movies. And
they landed on some of Mandalorian. That something about that, it almost like you kind of wish they had done the Mandalorian as a movie, but it might not have been as which I love the fact that it's lone wolf and cub. I mean, there's no hiding what the Mandalorian is or was, but hey, Star Wars was Kurosawa's the hidden fortress. So I mean, it kind of makes sense to for them to rip off, with Lucas kind of ripping off, but
yeah, it's interesting to see, and I'm excited, yet I'm kind of skeptical to see how the future of filmmaking and movies and shows tends to go, because the last 10 years has been such a drastic change as is.
Oh yeah,
it's ever evolving thing.
I mean, like I know I talked to you, Dom, about this, but I mean, like when I was in film school, I mean, we actually were on film. Like we actually had a class where, I remember it so well because I got ticked off because the cost of film, like, I was a poor grad student. I didn't have, I didn't have a lot of money, and we had to pool our money together to buy this reel of film. And I remember our professor was showing us how to set it up in the film camera. And so he grabbed reeled it through, and then, you're supposed to take off the first like part of the trim, because it's already been exposed, and he starts, and I swear to God, it's like he just kept going and going, like our film stock. And I was like, stop, what are you doing? He's like, what? It's like,
you're wasting our money.
Waste our money, like stop pulling it out. He's like, because I was the producer of the movie, he's like, yep, thinking like a producer. I'm like, well, no, pay me back. Like,
open your wallet.
Yeah. Well, I love that. There's another great DVD out there if you can get it. It's the 2-disc Warner Brothers version of THX 1138, the actual theatrical movie, which is great because it has this making of America Zoetrope, which was Francis Ford Coppola's company, and how George Lucas and all of them were a part of this, and that was part of who produced THX. Well, he talked about how, he would go to different film companies and would steal those trims. He would steal those and bring them to Zoetrope and have it in the closet. So his closet was just filled with reels of film, unused film, and that's what they would make movies with. And he learned that from the Corman days of like, why are you all are wasting this? We can use it.
Yeah.
And so, it honestly, it fascinates me, the technology that's changed. Like I said, we were making film. Now that's all. They've gotten rid of the equipment at my old film school, I think, of film stock. I mean, the reel to reels and all that stuff. It's just not there anymore.
We don't at being in Full Sail. Everything's digital. It's just we got. They were like, okay, for films, we're sending you out a Sony FSX camera, and you get your SD card, and you get your computer, and everything's just right there.
Yeah, Which is great. I mean, honestly, I've never that only that one time I've ever been on film. Yeah, I remember. I don't know if it's necessarily the greatest of westerns. I think it's beautifully filmed, but the Hateful Eight, Tarantino's Hateful Eight.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking Magnificent Seven. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, that's
Oof.
on the top
the,
list of
the
westerns.
classic. Yeah.
Oh, love Magnificent Seven. Um, there's a fun story about Magnificent Seven I love to tell, and I actually tell this to my acting students. Uh, Yul Brynner. I mean, there's just a different approach. Yul Brynner, was a very stoic actor. Was one of those old, studio kind of trained actors who knew his lines, and you stood there and you did your stuff. And then there was Steve McQueen, who was this method actor who, trained to, I'm going to look like this snake. I'm going to think of a snake, and that's how I'm going to move as an actor. It's all this weird stuff. Well, if you watch the Magnificent Seven, Steve McQueen is doing just weird stuff the whole time. He's always moving around, and like he'll. There's one scene when they're on the coach of the early funeral, and he grabs, he rides shotgun, so he actually pulls up the shotgun and he grabs like the bullet, and he starts like shaking it to listen to it, and it's like, okay, before he puts it in the gun. And there's no reason for that, other than Yul Brynner knew this. Steve McQueen is basically was taught, if I'm moving, you're looking at me. The audience is going to look at me because you all are standing around. So Steve McQueen trying to buy screen time and get more out of his role. Well, Yul Brynner just looked at him one day and just turned around and said, "Listen, you son of a bitch. All I got to do is take off my hat," because Yul Brynner was bald, "and they won't look a moment at you." Put his hat on, walked away. Steve McQueen didn't move at all. I always love that story. It's like, it all depends as an actor, like how you do a moment like that, how you get into it. But the Hateful Eight, going back to that, he spent all this money on 70 millimeter film, and I don't know if the. 70 millimeter film is, it's a huge frame. The camera to lug. Yeah, I hear about him and Christopher Nolan shooting on 70 millimeter, and I think, oh, like Lawrence of Arabia was shot on 70 millimeter. Ben-Hur, Bridge of River Kwai, those are on 70 millimeter. Hateful Eight was shot. It basically was a play. It was a
stage play.
Yeah, and I was just like, why did you spend 70 million? Why did you spend all this money on 70 millimeter? This is insane.
Yeah. Quentin Tarantino, he knows.
He can do what he wants. And that's really what it boiled down to. He could just do what he wanted.
Yeah. No indie filmmaker is gonna go get away with 70 millimeter film for their.
Yeah, but digital technology. I couldn't teach students film if it wasn't for today. If it wasn't for, I do it all the time. We got these these iPhones. You can shoot 4K on them. I know there's that. It's not really 4K. Blah blah blah. But for a student production in high school, like, I wish I had that.
I wish I had that. Dude, in high school, we were shooting on shitty, dumb little camcorders.
I was on VHS when I was in high school. Come on, like we literally the big old camera that you see in like Home Improvement. Like
you had
that.
A good Dom.
We had it good.
You all did, yeah.
But
I used to have to, in order to edit, I used to have to take the tape, take the mini DV tape, put it in a VHS tape, like put that into VCR, transfer that into the iMac, the color iMac, the big, desktop iMac, transfer it into there. Maybe it would connect with the VCR, but if the VCR skipped or had an adjustment track issue, you had to restart the whole thing. Now, compare that to a reel with film.
Out of here.
you
Sorry,
know,
my roommate's cat just walked in.
no, that's I mean, to do a reel to reel, that those are real filmmakers. But still, like we had to restart the whole process. I mean, now, gosh, I film something, grab my phone, plug it in, drop down the little, the MP4, drop it into Adobe Premiere, move a couple of things, shift, click, export, got it. Like
So easy.
it's just not, it's insane.
And that's what I love about being in this industry is like it's one of those things. So if you go to like and being like an accountant or some shit like that, there's only like you can only get so high and then you're just there. Right? Like this one, you can be like at a Tarantino level, but then like in 4 years, there's gonna be new shit, and then you can just get an even higher, and then even higher,
or higher, yeah.
And it's that's what I find exciting about it is that like you can always learn how to do new dumb tricks to make
But you know what I love, and I love this, and I've been saying this lately because I really thought about this the other day. Why I think it's so important to have film to teach film, especially, it's very odd for me to be able to teach film in high school. It really is. I mean, that's not a normal. I mean, you might have a film appreciation course that like an English teacher or a theater teacher might do, but like I actually get to teach students to make films. And the reason I love that is because if you really think about this as an art form, right? AI is killing a lot of stuff. I mean, we can make paint. I mean, you type in a couple of words in AI, and all of a sudden you have an original painting. All the apps that are getting created can draw stuff for you. I used to teach graphic design, and there's an app to make a poly portrait now. You don't have to sit there and spend hours doing the triangles and getting the different references of skin color and all this. You don't have to do that anymore. These apps are doing it. But film, yeah, AIs are writing scripts. Yeah, AIs are doing certain stuff. But you still have to have a director. You still have to have actors on the set to make that film. AI can't do that yet. And it's like, I love that. I mean, no matter what, film will still have a staying power. It'll still have this
personal touch.
Yeah, you have to be there to create it. You have to do that. And so it's almost like, why don't schools invest in film? I mean, not that I want it to flood the market. So but it's true. You can get your film out there more now than you ever could. I mean, I love the people who put their movies on Tubi. I love the people that put their movies on YouTube. I mean, it's direct to your audience. You can get YouTube on your TV screen. Our TV screens are now almost like a freaking theater almost, if you're getting like 85 inches, which is maddening to me, but
that's what I have.
Yeah, but I want one. It's just I bought the 55 one and it hasn't blown out yet, so I don't have save your money, Dom. Like, come on now. Like, get out of here.
Look, I'm still a kid, I'm
no more Star Wars mannequins, all right?
Yeah, like you got 85 inch TV. You got
$2 million one day.
Pay off the credit card, Dom. Like,
you got a mortgage to worry about. No more House Stark banners.
But
I already got them all. Look, I already got them all, and they all go down my steps. I don't need
House
any.
of the Dragon still going on?
Yes, they didn't make these posters yet because guess what, buddy? The second they do, I have some empty spaces on these walls.
Yeah, but what's funny when we were talking about Steve McQueen? Remind me of a story that about Steve McQueen and my grandmother. My grandmother only watches Hallmark movies and Lifetime movies, and she knows I'm into film, so she was asking me for film recommendations. I know she likes old films, so I tried recommending her some Steve McQueen films. I thought she would like watch Le Mans or Magnificent Seven or The Great Escape or something. But what she didn't know, what I didn't tell her, is there's two Steve McQueens. There's the actor, and then there's the director, Steve McQueen. So she ended up watching 12 Years a Slave and Shame, which is about a sex addict. And she called me after that And she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
What was that? God, what
Like
was the one
Small
he?
World, my mom.
What was the one he did? Was it Safe? What was the one I saw? The one that had Carey Mulligan and Michael Fassbender. I can't. Which one was that?
That's Shame.
That's Shame. That's what it was. Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
wonderful director. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
guy. That's a guy who directs actors. That is an
yeah.
actor director. I mean, that
Yeah.
that
Widows is one of my favorite movies of like the last 5 years, last
yeah,
6 years.
wonderful director. But then again, yes, wins
Sounds
best
like
picture. Wins best picture. Does he get the Oscar? Nope. You know.
it's a slippery slope. Well, I don't think anybody can predict who's going to win what at any given moment.
You really well, and then you get these articles where it's like an honest one. We got this producer to tell us how he's going to vote, and he's like, I hated all these, but I like this one random one. It's like I'm voting for Banshee of Inisherin, and it's like, well, who?
Yeah.
How does
Well,
any
there's a
of these?
bunch of those people like doing the same thing for the Woman King still.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you see the Woman King?
I didn't. No.
Good.
Don't.
No, what?
It is insulting to like just to history.
Wow.
The fact that they're trying to write it off as a true story, it's
Yeah,
it's in one of our other. I'm not gonna. I will go on a tangent if I start talking about it. It's in one of our other.
We did a
episodes.
whole one of our other
Yeah.
episodes. We did a whole segment on it, and it kind of tied into the shitty Rotten Tomatoes review system because the Woman King.
Oh, don't get me started on Rotten Tomatoes. I
System.
will join you all in the Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, join our anti-Rotten Tomatoes battalion.
Well, look, I love the idea of being able to get one-stop shopping. Okay, that was great because I grew up in the era where we were, I didn't get off my lawn. No, I hate saying I'm that old, or that, but like I read reviews in the newspaper, like that was, and with that, it was your local film critic, and we had a wonderful film critic, Linda Cook, in the Quad Cities was the newspaper, and I used to look forward to reading Linda's reviews, and I thought she was very honest. Like they didn't pay to have Roger Ebert or any of any of that stuff, and this is a little bit not as old where I was dealing with the thumbs down, thumbs up thing, but I used to look forward to reading Linda's review, but it was only Linda. It was only her opinion that I got, and it's like sometimes I agreed, sometimes I never not saw a movie because of Linda's review. Like I never
Which is right.
Yeah, it's like Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me wasn't the greatest movie ever, and she was right about that, but I still loved it. I still went to go see it. But that made a difference. And now you've got, just I'm fascinated right now. My friends in their film 65, it's Rotten Tomatoes is not giving it good reviews right now. I mean, they're compiling it together.
Yeah.
But the problem is you look at it and it's like, 5 critics don't like it, but 4 say this part about, like with Adam Driver and the whole dinosaur thing is really, really cool. But it still calculates to be a certain percentage. Now, over here though, online reviews, I write movie reviews for, a website called Fandom Spotlight. I do older movies. Like I'm kind of doing, movies from like the 1950s and 60s and stuff like that. But you watch some of those or read some of those articles, they're loving that movie. So who's to say that this Rotten Tomatoes score is actually a true testament? I mean, really, the true testament is audience members who come out of it.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. There was somebody out there who, spoiler alert, and I only know it's like almost 50 years later, but Darth Vader's his dad. Well, that's stupid. Like, sorry, Zach.
I have no idea.
Well,
This
look,
is you two are the Star Wars guys.
hey,
But
hey, at least I didn't tell you Bruce Willis is good. Anyway,
no,
the the problem with that though is literally like it's really audience. I remember the Jar Jar Binks thing, right? Like everybody hated Jar Jar. Everybody just despised. Oh, this guy. I mean, to the point. Like, I mean, you want to talk about online bully? I mean,
Oh,
that guy.
he said he thought about like suicide and stuff like
Yeah.
that because people were telling him that his character was so bad.
Yeah.
That
Misa hate Jar Jar.
it ruined like everyone's life because of it. And like, how do you take that as a person?
And yet, and I always say this, you want to know the number one Star Wars toy that gets bought? Jar Jar. People buy Jar Jar Binks toys. They really do. It's, so yeah, y'all say you hated him. It's like the election of 1984. Ask anybody, they didn't vote for Ronald Reagan. Well, the guy got reelected somehow, in a landslide. So some of you have all voted for him. So, some of you obviously say you hate Jar Jar, but you buy the damn toys. But what was around then was the internet. What wasn't around for Empire Strikes Back, who people hated C-3PO. Yeah. I mean, really, like, I'm going to go on a tangent about Empire Strikes Back if I can.
Oh,
all right.
Before you start this, I'm interested in this because I have Empire Strikes Back as one of my 10 100 out of 100 movies ever made.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's a bad movie. I'm not at all. Hold on just a second. But is that annoying? Can you hear that?
Hear what?
Can you hear that noise in the background?
No.
Okay, good. I turned on my space heater because it's cold. That's how old man I am. But Empire Strikes Back, and I believe this for years. Take out I'm Your Father, okay? Like, really, like, you guys are film people. Like, really, honestly, take
that line out. Just that line.
Just that one line. Take it out. What does that movie serve? As far as the plot of the Star Wars universe, what does it serve? And I've gone through all the arguments. I can give you all of them. You got to see Luke get trained. No, you don't. You can come back and return. You can come back and Return of the Jedi. Hey, I found a Jedi Master. He trained me. Done.
But they show you him training a little bit in Return of the Jedi, so you can just do it then.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
God damn you.
I mean, but honestly, and what does it do? Oh, Han Solo and Leia fall in love. Okay, they weren't in love in the first movie. Who cares?
And there's another love thing there that bothers me a little bit, but
I mean, yes, we get one of the greatest lines ever of "I love you." I know, like, I mean, yeah, it's great. But if you really, honestly, if I was a studio boss, I would ask, what does this movie really serve as part of that series? And really, it's because of that little line, that those two sentences. And it is two sentences. It's no, period. I'm your father.
I know, and that's crazy because that's one of those Mandela effect things where they think it's Luke, I am your father, and that's what everyone says, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just, no, I'm your father. That's it. Now, that moment, one of the greatest moments in cinema history. I mean, nobody expected that, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I like to the point where I'm almost jealous of, my daughter, because someday down the line, hopefully we'll watch Star Wars and I want to see her reaction. I really want to see it, and
it's already watched and put together Anakin Skywalker becoming.
That's the thing. Do you watch? It's that old debate. Do you watch it in the order that it came out? Do you watch it in chronological order? That sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather. That's the only part of, I think that's what I only think is the only problem with the prequel, is that it does ruin Empire. But I've said it for years, everybody always claims that is the best of the Star Wars movies, but it's really what they're saying is that
those two sentences are the best two sentences in an entire franchise.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think everybody is saying. And I don't disagree with them.
It's crazy.
It was a twist that pivoted all sorts of movies. I mean, you know, Shyamalan, and then Shyamalan, same thing. I mean, that line from Sixth Sense, or that twist. I mean, when you find out that twist, you just go like, oh my, none of us saw it. Or to me, I'll be honest, I did not see it in Saw. Like, I don't want to ruin Saw for anybody, but that moment at the very end, I mean, I was in the theater, and I mean, I was the one doing the no, like none of us saw that coming.
No pun intended.
Right, but that was the thing that I've always said that with Empire Strikes Back. I take that out. What does it serve? And it really doesn't.
Soul of sleeping inside of a giant furry animal. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's great stuff. Irving Kershner did a fantastic job. And again, technologically, what they did with that movie was incredible. I mean, like the movie itself is important. But if I'm teaching screenwriting, if you're making a trilogy, it's honestly not the greatest way of doing a trilogy, because they're bringing nothing to it. They're rehashing old ideas. And really, you're making a whole movie just for those 2 lines.
Yeah, it's the greatest filler of all time.
And it was, and it really is. When you put that 2 sentences back in, of course, this is an important movie. I mean, probably one of the most. I mean, next to Scarlet, I Don't Give a Damn, and Yeah Baby from Austin Powers, probably one of the greatest movie lines of all time.
Here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah, here's looking at you.
I think that might be my favorite line in all of cinema.
Here's looking at you, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Casablanca. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, correction. No, false. No, not the bees. That's my favorite.
No, not Nick Cage. Get out of here. No, not Nick Cage. Yeah, You know what? Here's the problem. I love Nick Cage. I really do. I get the whole Nick Cage thing, because that guy does take risks, and it's beautiful.
He's also capable of good acting, but he just doesn't show it as much.
No, but I really do. I do miss Nick. The Raising Arizona Nick Cage. I do miss like kind of those Moonstruck kind of Nick Cage movies. It's like, give this guy some stuff. Give this guy some like deep acting.
Great example.
Yeah, you seen Pig?
No, Pig was on my list. I do need to see Pig.
It's a great example, and it will give you that. It'll give you that throwback Nick Cage where he can really act.
Okay, good. I do want to see
if the Oscars meant anything, he would have been nominated for sure. It'll make you cry.
Yep,
I love that. I love that. I really do. That's great. But yeah, that's the thing. But internet people ruin C-3PO. Going back to the people hated C-3PO in that movie. Hated him. There was people that, and Lucas himself has said this, there were so many letters that they got at Lucasfilm complaining and bitching about C-3PO being so annoying in that movie. But the internet wasn't around. There's no, Lucas can say it, but where are those letters? They threw those out years ago. I mean, like, so it always fascinates me about like what people will react to, and how the internet really can. I mean, good Lord, the internet bullied Sonic the Hedgehog, and they got it changed,
Yeah.
Which, bless Disney. If Disney ever did one thing right, have you seen Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers?
It's really good.
The hero is Ugly Sonic. They brought back Ugly Sonic.
They did.
Genius. Like,
see, that's
my
what
my daughter and I were watching it, and I was having more fun with that movie than she was.
The movie's very fun, and that's what I love about like movies that like are like that, where they don't take themselves too seriously, and they know how to really get the audience to get on their side and throw those stupid little things in there. Like, remember when you guys bullied Sonic? Well, here's the original Sonic.
Yeah, like it's just great. But that I think that's just been the difference in Rotten Tomatoes to me is it's just kind of the same thing. It's like and to me, it's not Rotten Tomatoes' fault. To me, I mean, the issue with everything in the world, it's people, right? People are going to buy this number from the algorithm of Rotten Tomatoes and go, oh, well, this movie's terrible because it only got 35%. So what? I mean, Blonde got bad ratings and stuff.
42% right now.
I mean, like Babylon has gotten bad reviews. I mean,
and I just watched Babylon the other day, and I think that's one of the best movies I've seen in the last 6 years.
All right. I mean, let's be honest, guys. There are reviews for Schindler's List that are bad. Schindler's List, probably one of the most culturally impactful, amazing filmmaking ever done. I mean, that movie will be studied for years. Some critics were like, well, I mean, the red dress was the red coat was a little bit too much,
A little too sad for me.
Yeah, just a little bit too on the nose. Yeah.
My grandma might be one of those negative reviews. I've accidentally got her to watch that too.
Well, they say they've never built a statue for a critic, right? Well, they have. Roger Ebert has got a statue in Chicago, but birds still poop on it. So it's nothing against Roger Ebert. It's just it's the reality.
So if you try to please everybody, you're going to end up going insane. So don't even try.
Well, that's what those AI scripts. That's why those scripts don't work. The AI computers want the best algorithm, and they want to appease audiences. It's fascinating the AI stuff when they're doing this, because the computers will read positively rated scripts, and Rotten Tomatoes has something to do with that. I guarantee you, it has something to do with that. And they'll just compile it together and put things together, and yes, they're. And I'm telling you right now, whether they want to admit it or not, some people have taken an AI script and have edited and have sold it to studios. I'm telling you, they have.
Well, I saw a tweet. It was funny. It was so bad, but it was like this computer, this guy programmed this AI to study hundreds and hundreds of hours of Hallmark movies and write a script about like a Hallmark movie. And holy shit, is this script so bad?
Yeah.
It's one of the. It was one of those that might be one of those memes that film that will be like interpreted into film study class.
But Dom, all it takes is taking that AI script, put it into your computer, and yeah, it says 2 with 2 O's. Delete. Come on, it's gonna make some. Look, I'm a teacher, right? I know every darn cheat there ever is. The same cheat was done in 1875 as it's being done today. I know when you can tell when an AI is going to write a script. I can tell when my students are using one of these programs to do it. Or, and I'll be over here and I'll be truthful, those kids grabbed the AI script, changed it so they changed all the writings and all this kind of stuff. Do you know why I'm okay with it? Because those kids were screenwriters. They actually took something, they re-edited it, they had to think about it, they had to process through with it. So, you know what? You got out of it what I still wanted you to get out of it. I'm not encouraging cheating. I'm just saying, But hey, maybe you're somebody who can't, who you have to start off on the box to think outside the box. Well, maybe those AIs will get you Forrest Gump Part 3. And from that, you get something. I love telling this story. Annie Hall, Woody Allen's, the Academy Award winning Annie Hall, right? That started off as a murder mystery. I don't know if you ever heard about the story of it, but Woody Allen basically wanted to write a murder mystery, and he had these two characters, Annie Hall and Albie, and they were solving a murder. And what he realized as he was writing it is this banter that he put between these two oddballs who are falling in love with each other. That was more fascinating to him. That was more entertaining. And people, Diane Keaton was reacting more to that than this murder mystery. And what he did is he just scrapped the murder mystery. He just took it all out. And he said, this is now going to be a romantic comedy. Goes on to win Best Picture and an Oscar for screenwriting. So, you can always take something crappy and make something out of it.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder what Woody Allen might have been in an alternate universe.
Well, that's I'm not not the best example, but they haven't taken away his Oscar yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
And see, that's one of and going back to script writing, that was one of my favorite courses that I've done for well, I'll just use this as an example. When you said take something crappy and make it better, I was telling you when we did our short film for my college, and I submitted this short film, and all my professors fucking hated it. They were like, and I got a 1 out of 100 on it, and they were like, this is not good. You can't use this, you can't do this, you can't do this. I took the copywritten names and changed some things around to make it beating around the bush, and they were like, oh my god, the script is great, this is fantastic.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
What they did was they wanted you to think about it. They didn't even read it. They just marked down a couple of notes, and I'll tell you, this really happened to me. There was a professor once. I won't say who. No. But we had a cut of our movie. This is when I was in grad school, and we showed the cut of the movie, and we played it. And now I saw this professor yelling on the phone right before we were going into the room. And this is my grad film. This is my, I've spent all my money on this. I'm doing all this stuff. Well, he was yelling at somebody on the phone. And we went in, there was me and my editor. I said, look, he's not going to like the cut. My editor's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm telling you right now, what we're going to get out of this is not a good review. Play the movie. This is crap. This is the blah, blah, blah. What about this is not, you need to do that. Blah, 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 blah. No. Storms out. I tell my editor, I said, don't touch anything. Literally. The whole time he was on the phone texting, like whoever he was yelling with. And this is like the days of the, TTT, BBB, FF, like he was texting while the movie was playing. I know he wasn't watching it. So, or they, sorry, whoever. Don't want to give out the identity. But next day or next week comes to watch our edit in a great mood. Watches the whole movie. We haven't touched a damn frame of it. This is great. I love what you did this. Blah, blah, blah. Now it makes sense. And I remember my editor looking at me going like, how did you know? Just like,
Yep.
So, not that I'm bashing us teachers, but we're full of crap too sometimes. No.
Yeah. So when your students see you in a bad mood, they're like, how about we show you our film tomorrow?
Yeah. You're another brick in the wall, but bricks can get hurt. You can hurt if you throw it. So don't, just eat your meat before you eat your pudding. That's all I ask.
That's a good one. I'm going to use that one. Just eat your meat
Go
before
for it.
you eat your pudding.
I give you free reign. Take it all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I have one topic I wanted to get to. There was I think I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I went to my friend's house. It was he lived in a trailer park, and his dad had like 3 DVDs and to his entire collection. He brought them out for us, and he said pick it, and we ended up picking a movie called Double Indemnity. And
yeah.
I put it in it wasn't even DVD, it was a VHS. He put it in the VHS player, and then for like the next hour 35 hour 40 minutes, I just in my head I was trying to figure out like how would I stage this scene right here. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and that was the first movie that I saw that like made me think. I really love filmmaking, so I was wondering if there was a film at some point in your life you watched that you can recall back to and say that really made me fall in love with filmmaking?
Oh yeah, well, I'll tell you. I've got three. I got three favorite movies. If I had to name, because we all know as filmmakers, you can't say three. Now, I'm not saying these are my favorite, like the
Yeah.
greatest movies ever made. I'm not saying like these are ones I watch all, but the three that I would say that they're my favorite because they did get me into filmmaking. First off was Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Ghostbusters, I'd watch it, and it's just such a magical film. I mean, it's at 3 years old, I'm not focused on the comedy. I'm not focused on, that it's Bill Murray. I'm not focused on, what I am focusing on though is these lights. All of a sudden there's this, which is to me real. They're busting these ghosts with these awesome laser cannons, and that visual of that was just astonishing to me. And it was just, just the visuals of that movie, that got me interested. But I remember Creepshow 2. And I love Creepshow 2. I really it's again, it's not gonna make anybody's list of any great movie ever, but what I remember the most is there's the middle story called The Raft. Have you guys seen Creepshow 2? Have you seen that?
No.
I have not.
Okay, go do your homework, go watch Creepshow. No.
Yes, sir.
No.
I'll put it on
Don't
the
worry.
list.
All right, thank you. It's free on Tubi, so don't give me excuses. I don't want to hear it. Anyway,
And you expect a paper due by Monday.
yeah, God bless
I did
Tubi.
have to practice
Can I
tomorrow.
just say that they're not paying me any money, but God bless Tubi. That thing has everything. I love Tubi. It's all free. It's beautiful. But in Creepshow 2, there was a segment called The Raft. It was all these kids who go on to this lake and they get on a raft, obviously. But there's this blob in the water that is going to eat them. And it's a Stephen King story. It's I've read the short story. It's great. But what I remember the most, now I'm watching this movie when I'm 5. All right. Didn't scare me, didn't do that. I was just fascinated by this movie. Because they'd run it on HBO a lot. They would just keep playing it and playing. And what I remember the most is there was a moment where there's this blob is eating the people. And I remember talking to my dad, and my dad telling me, well, that's not real. I go, well, what do you mean that's not real? Well, he's telling me about how it's makeup effects and this and that. That's not a real hand. It's they made up somebody's hand, just like a mannequin's hand. And this, I mean, doing his best to explain to a 5-year-old. But I remember him explaining that and realizing this is make believe. Whatever my dad told me, he made me realize, oh, this is somebody pretends to do these things. Well, who's doing that? Who's pretending? Who's making this up? I get it now that it's not real life, but and that made me start understanding what filmmakers do. And then, anything you watch influences you, but I would say the final one that really did it was I was in high school and I watched Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West. And for the first time ever, I realized this is a guy who's not making a movie about reality. He's making a movie on his staged version of reality. And that's a little, maybe that's a little bit meta if that makes sense, but that's, people aren't just going to stand there not talk for 10 hours with wide things of their eyes, and Charles Bronson isn't going to walk around playing the harmonica. Just that's not real. That's not reality. But this movie that Sergio Leone was creating, he put all of those elements together to create his faked reality. And I remember just studying that movie over and over again. That was like a 2-tape VHS. That movie's like 3 hours long. And I just kept watching it over and over and over again, and just loving that for the first time ever. This is a movie about a movie. I'm watching a movie, not reality. Kubrick, I think, does that.
Mhm.
You know, Eyes Wide Shut is not a movie about reality. It's his creation of the reality. You know, The Irishman, I think, does the same thing. Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. I don't think that movie is as realistic as I think they want it to be. I think The Irishman is actually more of you're watching a movie about this stuff. You know, and you know, there's some movies like that, you know, like that, but I don't know. I would say honestly though, like those three are really what got me to kind of go like, this is the career I want to do. This is what I want to make movies because of understanding what these are. And there's been, you know, 1,000 others since then. I mean, you know, like I said earlier, I love watching Roger Corman movies. You know, and just
Yeah.
hearing how they made. I mean, The Wasp Woman is one of the most absurd movies I've ever seen in my life. You know, it makes no sense. Wasp venom is going to make you beautiful, but all of a sudden it turns her into a wasp werewolf. You know, it's insane. But I love the idea of Roger Corman being on the set for 5 days, making this stuff up, filming the actors in, you know, 4 rooms, and getting this ridiculous wasp costume. The story doesn't make sense. The plot doesn't make sense.
But he's having fun.
He's having fun, yeah. And this played at drive-ins for, you know, kids who were probably making out and doing other stuff in the back seat. They weren't watching the movie, and so it didn't matter. But it filled the bill. You know, you know, they got paid for it. So yeah, those influenced me. What about you guys? What movies do it for you?
Well, as the first movie I can remember watching, I mean, I watched movies before Double Indemnity, but I can't like specifically remember them.
That
S-
fascinates me.
yeah, it was crazy.
I've shown
Because I was
Double,
way too young to understand it.
but that you know, and I'll be honest. I mean, that's kind of like, if anybody's going to study noir, that's kind of the first movie you really kind of pop in. I mean, they're all the
Yeah,
cliches
Billy
really do come
Wilder.
from Double Indemnity. There's better noir movies.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's way
And
better. I mean, Blood Simple by the Coen brothers. Have you seen that?
No.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it though.
Oh, please.
Add that.
Forget,
I'll add that to the list.
forget all the other movies I told you. Blood Simple is one of the, and again, their first movie, the Coen brothers'
Mhm.
first movie. They did this really, you know, modern noir that, you know, it's in color. Frances McDermott, one of her first roles.
Classic Coen brothers.
Yeah, John Getz is in it, but it's that Coen dialogue. It's, you know, it's weird characters. It's actually, in a weird way, it's a real strong precursor to No Country for Old Men.
Okay, cool.
Like the concept of this killer coming back, like Javier Bardem does. They kind of did it originally in Blood Simple.
Yeah.
So it's not like El Mariachi and Desperado where they're just remaking the first one. You know, it's not like that. But it's an interesting companion piece. Like if you watched them back to back, you would see a lot of similarities between them.
I didn't start the Coen. My experience with the Coen brothers started with Raising Arizona and Lebowski and all the early works. But I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Big Lebowski is a movie. I was so mad that Big Lebowski is now this cult thing. Because I was watching the Big Lebowski in '96. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't get it. I think that movie, that you have to watch it a couple times to really get the plot of that movie.
But I think that's the point, right? I don't know if you're supposed to.
I don't know either. But I remember I was watching it.
It's a movie about just dudes bowling, and then there's just like there's a murder,
which is
It feels like
great.
a Tarantino sort of.
In a way, yeah, I can see that. I mean, but it was a great movie that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's just all of a sudden it just became a cult. And I'm going like, yeah, I saw that years ago. I was watching that in high school. Like, what, huh? Like 99, wild year.
Yeah, I sort of
Your Fight Club poster back there. 99 was a wild year, man.
99 was a great year.
Yeah.
That was two.
I mean, it's
But-
like it's 39 and 99. Those are the 2 years where Hollywood, people just think are Hollywood golden years. And I'd be curious.
I can argue
But
2000.
2014 was pretty good too.
Yeah, but I'm almost curious if 2029 is going to be
I'm hoping.
big kind of thing.
Yeah. My fingers are
But-
crossed for sure. But I think the second movie that I can remember, like remembering, was my favorite movie of all time, which is Alien.
Mm.
I think I saw that when I was 10. Yeah, my buddy Ryan and I watched that, and then we watched Predator, and then we watched Alien versus Predator, expecting
Is
it to be
Is that the
so
one?
much better.
Is that the one with the Prometheus?
There's the running joke we have.
We have a running joke because Zach is such a big Alien fan, and the Alien versus Predator, that we always, every time he talks about Prometheus or Alien, we're like, is that the one with the Predator in it?
Yeah,
Ryan was
over here today. He was making jokes about that.
well, God bless them for doing Prey. I mean,
Prey was good.
Prey was good.
I do hope they're going to do that thing where all of a sudden it's samurai versus
Yeah, I've been hearing.
I hope so.
cowboy versus predator.
So
Yeah.
we had that discussion with
Mhm.
we just saw Cocaine Bear.
Mm.
That
Oh.
we were like, since Cocaine Bear is Cocaine Bear, we want them to just do that with other beasts and just
Yeah.
make like its own Avengers kind.
Asylum already made meth alligator.
Yep, meth alligator.
Meth alligator.
You
Yeah.
gotta love
I do
Asylum.
I do not have high hopes,
Those
but
are terrible movies, but those guys crank it out Corman style, and I love it. I love it.
It's
the
the same way-
Sharknado,
have you seen,
Sharknado movies.
Have you seen The White Lotus?
No, I should though, because I'll tell you, I'm a huge F. Murray Abraham fan.
I love him.
Met him in New York. Great man. Got him to get an autograph and had a great conversation with him. But Amadeus, oh,
Oh, so good.
oh,
But, so Jennifer Coolidge's character plays like this. So I don't know if you know anything about The White Lotus. I'm not going to get really into spoiler. I'm going to kind of just
I've read and heard of.
in the plot. So it's basically like this hotel, this chain of hotels. And so far throughout 2 seasons, a murder happens at the hotel and it's trying to figure out who did it and how it happened. So the first scene is the aftermath of the murder. Someone's dead. You don't know who, you don't know how, you don't know why. They introduce all these characters in the first episode after you know a murder's happened. So the whole season, you're like, oh, fuck, who's going to die? How are they going to do it? So your brain's spiraling the whole time. And Jennifer Coolidge's character plays this dumb idiot who just so happens to be at every hotel at the same time as this murder. And that was one of those things where I'm like, I hope this goes on forever, for like 10 seasons, where she just goes to these hotels and it just keeps happening over and over again.
Well, I can't. I love murders and only murders in the building.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I love that show. But how many damn murders can there be?
Exactly. But you know what? I'm going to watch it every time.
I quote Kevin Smith and Mallrats. You can't get better than BJ and the Bear, a traveling truckster and his monkey. I mean, the TV hasn't been the same since. That's my stance.
So, sorry to just completely derail your alien
No,
talk.
No, Aliens was one of the first movies I ever saw. Like that. Aliens was one where I just watched it and I reenacted. That's why I love my action figures. I would watch movies and reenact them, and especially like around that time they brought. I love it, but they actually brought. Well, they brought these Alien action figures out when Alien 3 came to theaters, but it wasn't Alien 3 action figures. It was for Aliens. Come to find out, years later, there was a pilot for a cartoon show of Aliens in the early 90s. And like the characters had like Apone had this yellow t-shirt on that says "Don't bug me." And I'm like, well, he doesn't look like that in the movie. Well, in the cartoon, he does. So these were cartoon character models. That was going to be this hit show on Saturday morning for Aliens. Totally bummed. But yeah, Aliens. I remember doing all my reenacting my action figures, and I would do that. I did the same thing for I'd watch The Client, John Grisham's The Client. I actually would act out the movie. Like I
That's
would do that. I'd watch a movie and reenact the whole thing with my action figures. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
client.
I
Oh, I
did.
did that. I did that with Star Wars growing up. I did that with
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean figures. I used to do that. I used to buy the WWE figures and just reenact what I just watched on Monday Night Raw.
The best.
Yeah.
That's the
I
best right there.
reenact, I do American Psycho every morning.
You're a disturbing man, Zach.
Mm. Yeah,
And
but
listen, don't joke about that unless you've actually watched American Psycho 2. If you haven't watched American Psycho 2, you're a sellout.
that's like saying you watch Caddyshack too.
Don't you dare. Don't you
Oh.
dare.
We're gonna have a Caddyshack 2 debate here.
Okay, all right, that's stop.
Now and cushion.
Stop. First off, I don't give a crap what you say. Caddyshack 2, Jackie Mason is
Sure.
the funniest man of all time in that movie. To hear him,
Good old Jack.
well, you know, it's just genius. And Randy Quaid, when he gets the baseball bat, is just threatening to. I mean, nothing is funnier than that movie.
Good old Peter Blunt.
You know,
But
like you can give me Caddyshack
we-
all you want, but
we-
Caddyshack 2, I'm there every day.
See, we were like that.
Are
with,
we gonna have Caddyshack 2, American Psycho 2 debate at another time? We'll be here till 3 a.m.
Probably.
We have been.
So
But-
I'll go for. Or do you have another one for your inspo?
Yeah, he's got the. Yeah, you got
I got
one more?
one. Well, yeah, there was so there was Double Identity, Alien, and then the third one was Mars Attacks from Tim Burton with those.
I had that poster.
those
I had that
shitty
poster
CGI
when I was a kid. I had
Yeah,
that up
I
on the
always
wall.
remember I was traumatized by the scene where he shrinks the guy and then steps on him, and then you can like see the blood start to come out from under his boot. I was like, I must have been like 9 years old, and we were at it was a Thanksgiving party, and I was just hiding behind a chair for the whole night, just playing Pokemon or something.
That's great. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was on the
God.
tiny Zenith TV in the kitchen.
One of the best Tim Burton. Very underrated Tim
Yeah.
Burton.
Awesome movie to watch if you're just with friends.
Oh yeah.
One of Jack Nicholson's best performances.
I do. Oh my gosh. I remember when that came out. I saw that at like a second run theater. One of the
Yeah.
I mean, the best use of Indian Love's Call in the history of cinema. I mean, to kill people with Slim Whitman.
Yeah.
Like I was dying.
Yeah, you had Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, and Jack Nicholson in the same movie. And Jack Black was in there.
Yeah, it was his first roles, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Those
Yeah,
are like those are like the first three movies that I can remembering. And got me thinking about movies. What do you got, Dom?
So mine's a little different. I'm gonna talk about it as okay. So I'm just gonna have to just talk about it, and then you'll kind of figure out how my brain's working. So I think watching movies and studying film and learning and going to school to be a director, kind of what you were saying earlier, when someone's like, hey, what's your favorite movie? It's like such a hard question to answer.
Mhm.
And when they go, what got you into film? It's a hard question to answer. So I'll go with like my entire childhood growing up, and even to this day, like my favorite, and they're not good movies. Like they're good movies, but they're not like Dune level movies. Like they're not these perfect.
But they're your movies. That's
Yes,
what's
so-
important. Yeah.
I'll go like the Harry Potter franchise is something that stuck with me like forever, right? I went the first book came out in 99. I was 2. 2001, my grandmother
Read it.
yeah. My grandmother took me opening night in 2001.
Come on,
And
Harry Patton.
I went every night, every opening night, midnight showing until 2011 when the last one came out. I've
Wow.
watched those movies about 1,000,000 times each. But like maybe like around 10 years old, I'm like, oh, like doing these kind of movies would be kind of fun, like watching, like that'd be kind of cool to do. But then it wasn't until I started when Game of Thrones started, where I was getting more and more invested into the actual filmmaking of the show and the dialogue and the acting. I remember taking a random course in high school as like a junior because I needed, or a sophomore because I needed a couple credits, and it was video production 1, and that's like where I absolutely fell in love with the idea of this can be a career path. You know, like this can be what I want to do for fun. I watched these stupid fucking YouTube groups where they would make stupid short films, and I'm like, these assholes are just having fun and just making dumb content. And like that's what I want to do. Like that shit's fun. But then going through all those courses and watching these shows, like that's where like my creative side of my brain really kicks, you know, where like I watch that and I can, during like Game of Thrones, where you would see like a lighting scene and I'm like, okay, I know how they set the lighting up in this scene, where like my buddies are watching it and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is just a brutal murder scene. I'm like, yeah, but look how the light's reflecting off the sword. That means he has it up like behind. And they're like,
I tell people all the time when I'm watching movies, it's like I'm Nero watching The Matrix. I just see the zeros and the ones, and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing everything. Like I'm looking at it differently than my wife is looking at a movie. She's just watching for a story. I'm looking at. I mean, it's Real House. I admit it, but it's a fun show for the fighting. But I watch Real Housewives of Miami. You know, my wife.
My wife watches that shit all the time.
Yeah, I'm watching it, but I'm looking at it like, okay, you know, the light on her giant cheekbone is really like, that's a really terrible lighting. Like I don't understand. Exactly. And my wife's like, what are you thinking of? And I was like, nothing.
Yeah. You know, like, but now I've learned to train myself to like watch. So like I've seen Babylon since I start my new job Monday. These last 3 days I've had nothing to do, so I watched Babylon yesterday morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch it to watch it. I've watched it 3 times already because the first time I'm watching it for the story, right? I just want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Later, I watched it the second time, and now I'm really watching the movie, right? I'm watching how Brad Pitt is sitting there, and there's like a little scene where he's doing like an interview, right? But it's only it's only on him. And I'm seeing the little quirks that he's doing with his mouth. I'm watching little dialogue stuff. I'm like breaking it down scene by scene after already knowing what the story's about. So I go for the first experience, and now I'm starting to break it down. And that's where I go, where somebody at the school was like, how do you like review a movie? Because like my reviews and like to Zach's reviews are so different, because I'm watching for the story first, and now I'm watching for dialogue and acting, and now I'm looking for set design, character development, like all this extra shit. Like I have to watch it like 4 times to really get everything in the movie, which is crazy. But then going back to my initial point about like saying Harry Potter is one of like probably the franchise that I'll relate to. I'll watch movies and I'll know I'm watching a movie. I know I'm just watching somebody make a movie. I'll watch these movies and it feels different. You know, it feels like these characters, I guess because I've grown up with them and I've watched them for so long, I feel like these characters are real, and like this story's so compelling, and it's just so moving in a way where, for example, the marathon was on TV today, and the one scene I'm like, God, it's so bad. The scene is so bad, the graphics are not good, but yet there's just something about it that I absolutely adore. And I think those feelings of being like, this is a movie and these are movies I'll watch forever, and my kids will watch forever, and I'll talk about forever, those little feelings that hit you right in like the heartstring, that's what makes me want to be a filmmaker.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I say that all the time. I ask students what their favorite movie is. What I'll say right away then is not what you want to say because I'm a film teacher, like, and you want to give that film answer. What's the real stupid? I'm going to put it on in the background, watch it all the time.
Yeah, Slumber Party Massacre.
Vacation 2015.
No, absolutely not.
Sick man. You sick man.
Another running.
You know, but like I said, heaven help us. Yeah. A movie that won no awards, disappeared. That is a movie where if it's on, I'll watch it. I just will watch it. I love every frame of it. I love every line of it. There's some movies that can do that. I mean, I remember when I was in grad school and they were just ruining films, like it was just movie after movie after movie, they're pushing which I don't like, but they were pushing an agenda of the certain movie you should be doing. And I'm sitting here like, I'm loving Roger Corman stuff. I love bad movies. Like, I want to make these kind of movies, like actual films, like movies, like not, The English Patient, which is a beautiful movie, but that's not really what I think I'm going to end up doing. And, I remember going to the video store and the only things I could watch was Van Damme movies. Like those are the only movies where I could just enjoy, because I knew I wasn't analyzing, the color curve of what the color coding was, and I didn't care. I'm like, roundhouse kick the son of a bitch, and like get stabbed in the stomach or cut in the stomach like he always does in every single
and survive
movie.
And continue
and survive and just Van damage. That's what I want. Like, just give it to me like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the best thing. That
and
is
the
the
perfect
best
example for like those kind of movies are like, I've heard the term being thrown around with like Gerard Butler. They're just dad movies,
Yeah.
Just like Plane.
Yeah.
Like his new
Those are the
Plane.
movies. Those are movies my dad I used to work at a video store. My dad would come in and just go, "Where's the next Steven Seagal?"
Exactly.
And my dad did not care. He didn't care at all. He just wanted Steven Seagal. That
Like,
was it.
did you see the new movie? Did you see Butler's Plane?
No, but I
It's
love.
perfect.
But I love. I mean, Liam Neeson was doing that for a while.
Exactly.
He was the dad movie actor.
Exactly. Like in Plane, it's him on a plane with terrorists on the plane. He has all this martial arts training that he just has.
Yeah.
And he kicks the shit out of everybody.
Because
Where
he's
did that come from? You don't know anything about it. There's no
because he's
development. You're like, fuck yeah, kick his ass, break his neck. Like, you're just you want to see shit like that.
Yeah, but that's what I wanted. Have you seen Cocaine Bear?
Not yet. I really want to, though.
That's what I wanted Cocaine Bear to be. I wanted it to be one of those Friday night like bad movies, just like the schlock movies.
Yeah.
It turned out all the good stuff, and we said this in our last episode, but all the good stuff that you see in the trailers, like that's all the good stuff. Like they like when they say like you have to flesh out your story, flesh out your characters.
Yeah.
I think there's certain movies where you shouldn't do that. And I think Cocaine Bear is one of the ones where they shouldn't do that.
Well, I'll tell you right now what's happening. I guarantee you Cocaine Bear ran into this. I mean, right now it's hard to get audiences to go to the theater. I mean, that's really what Hollywood, you can stream it and sure it'll find an audience, but to get them to go to that theater, and the friends of mine that did 65, I mean, they wanted to keep this a secret, the whole that this is 65 million years ago. They wanted to make that, you're in the theater and all of a sudden you realize, oh, this is 65 million. Oh, this is.
Yeah, the twist would have been great.
It was going to be the kind of the twist, but the studio basically said, no, what'll get the audience in is saying 65 million dinosaurs. Boom. Like, come see the dinosaur movie. And hopefully that's going to work. And I was listening to a podcast they did the other day where they said, the nice part is in 20 years, when some random kid in Ohio is watching this movie that they've never seen before, and they're not going to know what it's about, they just clicked on 65. Okay, click. Well, they're going to be able to discover it like, okay. Because they do it in the movie. I mean, it's kind of a surprise there.
I'm very excited to see this movie.
But the studio just said, hey, Sony was like, no, that's what's going to bring people into the theater. And to be honest, I don't disagree. But it's just so hard right now to sell a movie without. I mean, I thought Cocaine Bear kind of, I'm saddened you say that, because I thought, well, just the Cocaine Bear idea alone, like, hopefully I'm going to go there and get, 15 more scenes of just carnage.
Yeah.
Well, you get one
What you see
scene.
is
There's
really
one
what
scene in
you get.
particular where it's like,
There is a brilliant
holy
scene.
shit, that scene is
It's one brilliant scene that I
unbelievable.
wanted the whole film to be. It takes place in a cabin.
Cool.
I've said this before, but it takes the sort of Jaws approach where like less is more, but in this case, it's not. I want you want more cocaine bear because it's not Jaws. You
Yeah.
don't have to pretend to be Jaws. Give us cocaine bear going around a town doing cocaine with its little cocaine cubs, killing people. That's what we want.
And that's
Hey,
all I don't
some
want a
movies.
story. I just want to see that.
Sometimes
Some movies do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Snakes on a Plane. What's that
yeah,
movie about?
it's better than
Snakes on a plane.
for sure.
Snakes on a Plane. You know, and I love that. I love that that's what Samuel L. Jackson, he didn't even read the script. He saw the script on the desk and said, Snakes on a Plane. He said, I'm doing this.
Yeah, you talk about that might be your more famous two sentences right there. I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this
On
motherfucking.
this, you're right. I know, right? It's a
Or do you
great
want
line.
to do the meme version of that and do the television edit where he says, I'm tired of these monkey loving snakes on this Monday to Friday plane?
That might be worse.
The worst is The Big Lebowski when it was played on Comedy Central. Do you see what happens, Donnie, when you find a stranger in the Alps? Repeated over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't think you get better than that.
That's a good one. That's a really
True,
good.
true. It's on YouTube. Find it. It's great.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a bad John Goodman. So it's like, do you see what happens, Donnie, when you find a stranger in the Alps? You know, like it's art in it itself.
Now I have a question because I've talked to Zack a little bit about this, but it piques my curiosity to hear what other people have to say. What's like a movie that's is not good at all, but something about it you can't turn off every time it's on? For like example, mine will be two movies. It'll be Runaway with Denzel and Chris Pine.
Oh yeah.
And the second one is another Denzel, but The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Something about those movies when they're on, I can't stop watching it.
Oh, gosh. I mean, here's the problem. I did my thesis studies on bad movies, so that's. I grew up. Like, I love now. Like the '90s is like this like real big thing for like your younger generation. Like, oh, the '90s are so cool. Well, they actually kind of were for entertainment. I mean, the '90s were a great time for movies and stuff like that. And I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. And for a wannabe filmmaker, I really do credit that show because them making fun of the movies made me kind of, somebody else is commenting on how this movie was made. It's not just watching the movie, it's somebody going, hey, this director screwed up. Hey, look at I mean, nothing is better than Space Mutiny. If you get a chance, watch the movie Space Mutiny with Reb Brown. And don't just watch Space Mutiny. Watch the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode of Space Mutiny with them making fun of them. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever see in your life. Because if you watch Space Mutiny, one, I love this. It's directed by one of the Jets from West Side Story, David Winters. Kind of has this weird kind of Lil Abner look to him with blonde hair. Well, he went on to do direct movies, but he did like B action movies and stuff. But it's a great movie. What he did is he had a little bit of money. He filmed it on a set. The inside of the spaceship is a vent factory, like a power line factory, inside a spaceship, but also he bought footage from the show Battlestar Galactica, edited those clips of the spaceships into his movie. So it goes from a really $1 million budgeted TV show clip of spaceships to Reb Brown sitting in literally somebody's office with flip switches, and a man. I mean, it's great. But watching them point this stuff out made me just like, oh my God, this is great. So I love bad movies, but I'll tell you, they're probably the one where it's never on TV, but it's one that I have that I just worship. Is a movie called Hawk the Slayer, and it's it's from the early. It was an Italian American, kind of like like the Sergio Leone stuff. It was an Italian movie. They brought over American actors. The one probably name is Jack Palance. Just really earning the paycheck, and it's a sword and sorcery movie. It's literally the Magnificent Seven, but with a sword. And it really it feels like a Western. They even have the Leone shots. They have a duel, but it's with the axes, like you throw at those bars. I mean, my mom, I remember getting it after I went to go see a dentist, got some teeth pulled. We went over to the CVS store next door, or the pharmacy, and in their VHS bins, they were getting rid of their Ma and Pa section video store. For $2, I bought Hawk the Slayer. Beautiful cover. I mean, just one of those great, like, this guy's holding up the sword and there's all this. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful cover.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Now, I also say this too, if you're interested in this movie, the guys who did Mystery Science Theater they have this thing called riff tracks, and on Tubi they riff Hawk the Slayer.
Oh, that's cool.
It's great. But Hawk the Slayer is not a great movie, but it brings me back to being 8 years old, getting a bowl of ramen noodles that my mom made, and that's lunch, and I'm watching Hawk the Slayer. So I ask this question a lot sometimes too, is can a movie be so bad that it's good, and can it be so good that it's bad?
Yes.
Yeah. And I agree with you. The question is yes. There's some movies I think are so great, and they put in so much money, like The Last Duel, but some odd reason people didn't like it. But then there's a movie that's just so bad, like Space Mutiny. But damn it, if I don't just love it. Like, I just love it. It is so bad that I worship that movie. Like, it's so good. But yeah, I if I had to point one out, I'd say Hawk the Slayer.
What about you, Zach?
The Slayer. Two bad movies.
Whatever's one that's just like the one.
There's a few on the tip of my tongue that I can think of. I think the obvious one is probably The Room. Tommy Wiseau. I've watched that movie at least 10 times.
Which is great because he really was trying.
He was, and it's
trying.
It's an inspirational type of thing.
Yeah, I don't like movies that are bad that try to be bad. I don't like that. Like Sharknado, Zombievers, like all the, like I don't I like those who they really did try to make a good movie and it just didn't work.
Yeah. You're really cutting my expectations for Meth Gator now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're trying for it to be bad. It's like, but I think Cocaine Bear. I think Elizabeth Banks is probably really trying to make a good movie out of that.
It surprisingly is a good movie.
It is a good watch. I'm not, just because it's not what I wanted it to be, which is like just an hour and 40 minutes of schlock. There's a reasonable effort to put a story in there with characterization and whatnot, but
you need to watch Grizzly from 1976.
All right, let me put that in the notes real quick.
That's when they'll have
quite a bunch of movies.
It's a Jaws ripoff, but they'll have a puppet bear suit hand, just kill the girl. She'll fall on the ground, and it's plastic crayon melted wax on her. It was great.
Yeah, I like practical effects.
Oh, that's great.
But so The Room is one. Another one, which is I didn't see the movie initially it was a 2008 horror film, but the poster scared the hell out of me. It was this horrible horror film called One Missed Call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The poster always gave me nightmares. Also, around the same time, the Burger King King also gave me nightmares for some reason.
It's a creepy
Completely
mess, but you
unrelated.
remember it. It's good
Yeah,
advertising.
completely unrelated. There was one missed call, and then one movie that's one bad movie that whenever it's on TV, I'll throw it on is Battle LA. Came on. It was a 2011 Aaron Eckhart, super
Yeah.
shaky cam, aliens attack Earth, Marines save the day type movie. I was really excited for that movie because that was when Battlefield 3 was coming out. I think I was like 14 at the time or 13 at the time. But those three, and then honorable mention, I'll throw a Pumpkinhead in there.
Oh, great movie. Great
Pumpkinhead.
movie. There's again, I'm a fan of bad movies, but I actually got to meet a director named Jeff Burr. And Jeff Burr, a couple of his famous ones he did, From a Whisper to a Scream with Vincent Price, but he went on to do like a lot of sequels. So he did The Stepfather 2.
Texas Chainsaw 3, right?
Yeah, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw
Yeah.
3. But he also did Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings, which it was a straight to video, and in a weird way is actually, I think, better sometimes than Pumpkinhead, the first one. And it doesn't get the love that I think it deserves. So again, for your audience, go check out Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings.
Horror sequels never get the love they deserve.
They don't. Honestly, they really do. I'm actually doing an article. I was just writing it earlier before I got on the show with you guys. But I'm writing on the. I do articles on Fandom Spotlight, B Movie Reviews by Ian Klink. Do check those out. But I like to pick bad movies, but my rule is I don't pick those movies that try to be bad. Like I've done articles on Space Mutiny. I've done one on, I've done one on, gosh, what are some of the other articles I've done? Did one on Monster a Go-Go. I did one on Hawk the Slayer. Did a couple of those films, but I did. I was recently doing one on Prom Night, and I did the whole franchise. I was like, you can't just talk about one movie, but there's Prom Night, and then but my favorite part is you can do the Halloween thing with Prom Night, because it's just in name only sequels. So there's Prom Night, which had Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Slasher movie, but then they made a movie called The Haunting of Hamilton High. They realized it wouldn't really get that great of a thing with the name, so they bought the rights to Prom Night, called it Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. And then they make Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss, which is a sequel to 2, which has nothing to do with 1. And then they do 4, which has nothing at all to do with with any of the movies, and is about a killer priest who goes around killing teenagers who are having sex. Now, I bring this up because for a movie that's the 4th in the series, Deliver Us from Evil, Prom Night 4, Deliver Us from Evil, has no right to be good. It just doesn't. It has no purpose to ever be that good. And yet, it's actually a really good movie that if it was just called Deliver Us from Evil, I think it would have had a cult following. But because people see this moniker of 4, it's a 4th in the series, I'm not going to watch that. But it's like a pro Ronald Reagan 1980s like safe sex movie, because the priest is going to kill you for being a dumb teenager.
Yeah.
It has no right to be that good. So I agree with you. So some movies just don't get. Some sequels just don't get the love that they should. They really don't.
Need more priests like that.
Right.
But it'd be a good try to find the best, where the 4th entry is the best.
Leprechaun 4 in space.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Nothing is better than the 4 movies that go to space. Hellraiser Bloodline, go to space.
Yeah.
We joke on it. I also do for Fandom Spotlight. We do a video cast called VCR Redux, where we'll take a franchise, and first half hour we talk about what we do, and then the second half we decide what would we do if we had $1 million, we had all the money. Where would we take this franchise? And I'm telling you, every time we go to a 4, I say space. You have to go to space. It's the best thing to do.
And then what's 5? Time travel.
Yeah,
Or that, or go to the hood.
Boys in the Hood 4.
Right?
Space.
Boys in Space
Yeah.
4.
How long did it take Fast and Furious to get to space?
9.
They haven't yet. See,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
when they went
yes, they
stupid.
have. Yes, they have.
They went to space? I didn't
Yep.
watch it.
Yep, Ludacris
actually
and
went to space?
Ludacris and the other guy. They went to space in 9.
That's impressive.
Wow, that's great.
That's
The
impressive.
one fourth installment that's probably the best of the entire franchise I can think of is Mad Max Fury Road. That's the one that comes to mind.
Oh, come on now. Road Warrior. Come on now.
Road Warrior is great, but
Fury Road is that is an impressive movie. I went to the theater
it's great.
3 times to figure that bad boy out. It was the first time I
It's
saw it in
another-
3D, and I was like, I can't. Let me see this without 3D. Or no,
No, I'm
I
done.
saw it without 3D, and I went back to the theater and said, let me see this in 3D. I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm more of a 2D guy. Oh, James Cameron's trying to bring back 3D with his Avatar movies. I'm not down for it.
look, there's an injustice in the world, and that's that they have not brought out a Blu-ray of Jaws 3D. That's that.
Yeah. I want to see
I'll
that.
go on a
shark-
hunger strike unless they bring that one out.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I want to
So
see
if we
that.
have if you have anything to take away from this, anything you can take away from this
Photoshop
episode.
on my screen. It never gets old.
Oh,
You're right.
the shark just kind of.
Yeah, the shark. You can see the outline. With it out.
But again, but
And
imagine,
Butler trying, and it's great.
but imagine if you saw that in 1983, and there's articles, there's reviews about in '83. That was pretty cool. Like that, people love that movie in 3D. It bombed because not that many people were interested in going to see Jaws in 3D. But that's one, like, if they brought out on DVD now, I think a lot of people would buy that one.
Yeah.
I would, just for my class alone.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So if any
So
of you
three-
guys have stuck with us so far, one thing to take away from this is bully the Hollywood to making
Yeah.
Jaws 3D on Blu-ray.
Yes,
Cyberbullying.
absolutely, 100%.
Get it done.
Well, look, I don't want to take up any more of your time. We've been pushing almost 3 hours.
No.
I could
We're
go
going
on.
another 3 hours, guys.
I could go
I'm not-
forever.
Yeah.
You got me too excited about
Yeah.
movies. No.
Yeah, we
We'll
can.
have
I'm
to-
old. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, we'll absolutely have to do this again.
Oh, please do. I would love to come back.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah,
I
we
really
can argue
appreciate it,
about
Zach and Dom. I really do.
Psycho 2 and Caddyshack 2 next time.
yes, yes.
Oh, I'm gonna go watch that now.
Uh,
Now I know what to go to bed to. I'm gonna watch
I'm gonna get my
Caddyshack
note.
too.
I'm gonna get my notepad out.
Well, look, I
Oh, man.
appreciate
You
you
ready?
coming on and literally just keeping this shit show going for 3 hours. This is fun. Like, this is what I
appreciate it.
enjoy
No, I
doing.
really do.
I love talking film, and I can. Zach feels the same way. I know you feel the same way. This is shit that we just decompress and just let it all out and just talk film and talk movies and all that stuff. And you know what? That's fun, right? You're supposed to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Hey, this is what. Listen, I loved film. One of the best part about film school was just talking shop after class. You know, we were all filmmakers. We were all film students. We were just like, let's just talk shop. Like, those are some great memories. So, anytime, please let me come on back. I would love it.
Awesome. And I do want you to ask your buddies. I want to know, how does Adam Driver smell? He looks like
I
he
don't think I'm
smells good.
I'm gonna flat out tell you I'm not gonna ask them that, but
Damn it.
Damn,
they did have a really fascinating story though, that because they like this idea. One of the things is that, they knew it was going to all be computer effects and this and that, and so they had this moment where they were on the set and they wanted to have, instead of just like a tennis ball, and following the tennis ball or doing all this stuff, they wanted to have these professional ballet and mime actors be the raptors in the background. So, they're dressed in tights and, they're all, well, they thought that day, Adam Driver, a very serious actor, a very well-trained actor, would probably freak out and just be like, what am I doing on the set of this movie? Because, they were talking about how funny it was to see these, these dancers with bodysuits and raptor heads drinking coffee at the snack table. I mean, like they would just say, well, what's going to happen? And Adam Driver came up to them and just said, I love this because you don't know how great it is to see a visual nowadays. Like, this is awesome. You guys get it. This is great. So please go see 65. It's in theaters. You know, it's I know it's got a lot of competition with like Scream 4 or Scream 6 and Creed 3, but you know, it's not a sequel. You know, I mean, that's the most fascinating part about it.
The effects are better than the Jurassic World movies.
Well,
they are.
Although nothing will ever beat Planet of the Dinosaurs. That's claymation at its best from the late 70s.
I'm going to add that to the list. And
I love Planet of the Dinosaurs.
We will discuss that next time.
We got to watch Mad God too.
Oh, Phil Tippett. I just watched the Phil Tippett documentary.
Phil Tippett.
I watched it yesterday. It's so funny you say that. I literally watched that last night. Fantastic documentary. Love his work.
Yeah, have you seen Mad God?
No.
Saw the
stop motion.
I saw the first half hour of it. And it got a little weird, but it was fascinating.
It's very weird, but it's a breath of fresh air in contrast to what we get nowadays.
Speaking of Oscars, not even nominated.
Yeah.
Dumb World. Dumb World.
Well, again, I really appreciate all the time you decided to take out of your day to join us.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Movies. Oh, hey, no problem. We'll absolutely do this again.
Sounds good.